Chapter 1100. Emotion screamed. She had never imagined that she couldn't even block a single punch from Lin Sun. This was too shocking. Boom! Dazzling starlight condensed on the surface of the fist, and it struck again. Behind the fist was Lin Sun's cold and indifferent face. At this critical moment, Emotion's lips suddenly emitted an extremely sharp hiss. A big cat with black fur and green eyes suddenly appeared above her head. It stretched out its claws and clawed at Lin Sun's fist. This was Emotion's innate ability. She was a descendant of a nine-tailed cat. At this moment, she didn't hesitate to use the power of her bloodline in order to save her life. However, this was destined to be in vain. Under the attack of Lin Sun's fist, the big cat was instantly killed and turned into a rain of blood. However, Emotion took this opportunity to flee far away. Her pretty face was ghastly pale, and a layer of gray appeared on her black hair. Her expression was filled with shock, anger, and disbelief. All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. When they saw Lin Sun defeat Emotion, the other kings were shocked to the point that their expressions changed drastically. They realized that the situation was dangerous. A young man whom they regarded as an ant had now displayed such terrifying and supreme power. No one could remain calm. Quick, let's attack together. This kid can borrow the supreme taboo power of the Star Chest Sea. If we don't work together, none of us will be able to leave alive. Emotion let out a resentful shout. As he spoke, Lin Sun didn't delay at all. He followed up with the intention of dealing with Emotion first. Boom! However, a sword radiance that seemed to reach the heavens slashed horizontally. It burst forth with a divine luster, as if it was invincible and sharp. Lin Sun's figure stopped abruptly, and he waved his fist to meet the sword radiance head-on. This sword radiance came from Zhong Wenyuan of the Heavenly Sword Sect. As he waved his sword to block Lin Sun, he let out a long howl. Taoist Emotion is right. We've come with a holy treasure. If we don't kill this bastard, how can we establish ourselves in the ancient desolation realm? His voice rumbled and reverberated in the surroundings. Emotion activated the Immortal Hall to cooperate with Zhong Wenyuan's attack and attacked Lin Sun from the other side. This kid's rise is too fast. If he becomes a king, who in the king realm can be his opponent? If we don't get rid of him today, he'll be a huge problem in the future. Exactly. This kid possesses a saint artifact and great fortune. If we're able to kill him this time, then I'm willing to give up the saint artifact and fortune in his possession. During the battle, Zhong Wenyuan and Emotion did not remain idle. They invited the other kings to attack together. The eyes of the other four king realm experts flickered without end when they saw this. But in the end, they gritted their teeth and joined the battle. Lin Sun might be very strong, able to borrow the forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea, but they were not weak either. Every single one of them had stepped into the king realm and wielded sacred treasures. Moreover, deep down in their hearts, they still could not accept that a young man at the reincarnation developing realm could fight against king realms like them. Even if he borrowed the supreme forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea, it was impossible for him to hold on for too long. After all, a saint artifact was just like a saint array. If one didn't have the corresponding power and cultivation level, even if they could be used, the power they could display would be limited. Moreover, as time passed, it would instead bring about an immeasurable amount of damage to his body. It was certain that Lin Sun was at the reincarnation developing realm. Moreover, he was using the Star Chest Sea's supreme taboo power to deal with his enemies. How long could he last on his own? With this understanding, these king realm warriors all took action. Although it took a long time to describe, the battle had already begun. Seeing the 6 king realm warriors charging at him with all kinds of sacred treasures, Lin Sun was not shocked but delighted. Boom! In Lin Sun's sea of consciousness, the heavenly cycle star diagram rumbled. Lin Sun had completely grasped less than 1,000th of its mysteries. Then, he used it on the heavenly cycle star formation in the Star Chest Sea. In an instant, the starlight in the sky poured down like a waterfall, enveloping Lin Sun's body, causing his aura to suddenly rise and rise. It kept rising. This was because this was not a power that belonged to him, but the power of the ripples of the restriction. It was just that he was using the formation to control it. Kill. Lin Sun's figure seemed to be formed by starlight. It was extremely bright and blazing. Obscure and terrifying ripples of restriction flowed around his body. One person faced 6 king realm warriors, each wielding a sacred treasure, but he did not retreat. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. If news of this got out, it would be enough to shock the world. Who would dare to be so arrogant? Which reincarnation developing realm cultivator dared to be so domineering? Boom! For a moment, starlight surged in the sea. The fist force seemed to be thousands of layers bursting out in all directions. The fist force seemed to be able to break through everything. It was filled with supreme, divine power. It smashed the sky-reaching sword radiance, broke the envelopment of the sky-suppressing ruler, and shattered the divine brilliance of the immortal hall. Lin Sun moved with his fists, moving about freely. The world was shaking violently. Sacred treasures flew everywhere. Rays of light fell like rain, and terrifying battle ripples swept through the 9 heavens. It was extremely chaotic. Angry roars sounded continuously. The sound of treasures colliding was surging. The situation of the battle was like adding oil to a raging fire. It was extremely intense. However, to everyone's surprise, the 6 king realm warriors, who had taken out 6 sacred treasures and surrounded Lin Sun, did not gain any advantage. They were even unable to contain Lin Sun's attacks. This shocked Mo Jun, Zhong Wenyuan, and the others. Their expressions became more and more solemn and uncertain. Who would believe that even the power of a sacred treasure could not suppress a young man in the reincarnation developing realm? What shocked them the most was that the supreme forbidden power of the star chest sea was something that even sages did not dare to cross. Why was it used by Lin Sun? Bang! At this moment, Lin Sun waved his fist and sent the immortal hall flying. Mo Jun was unfortunately seriously injured again. Blood spurted from her mouth and nose. In the next moment, Lin Sun rushed over and grabbed the void. A large hand of starlight formed by the fluctuation of the restriction firmly grabbed Mo Jun's body and exerted force. Poof! Mo Jun was a king who had stepped into the first tribulation of the immortal hall. At this moment, she was like an ant in the palm of a hand. She did not even have the strength to struggle before she was crushed by the large hand. Her body exploded into a pool of blood. Her body and soul were destroyed. This was the first king realm warrior to die since the start of the battle. Even though Mo Jun had been seriously injured by Lin Sun earlier, the other king realm warriors still gasped when they saw her miserable death. Their hearts trembled violently. Even the immortal hall could not protect her. How was this possible? Mo Jun's death was like a basin of cold water poured over the heads of the king realm warriors. It made their hearts tremble, and they felt a fatal pressure. When they looked at Lin Sun again, besides shock, anger, and disbelief, their expressions carried deep panic and fear. They were even convinced that the first batch of 8 king realm warriors who came to kill Lin Sun had been buried in the sea a long time ago, as Lin Sun had said. Boom! The immortal hall glowed and flowed with holy radiance. It turned into a stream of light and tried to escape. This was a saint treasure. It had long gained intelligence. When no one was controlling it, the will in the treasure would run on its own and return to the hands of its original owner. Lin Sun had seen it once when he killed Yu Linkong at the Tao Discussion Lantern Festival. At that time, it was the immortal hall that saved Yu Linkong's life. And now, a similar scene was about to play out again. Suppress. Lin Sun naturally could not tolerate such a scene happening a second time. He shouted and stepped into the void. Endless fluctuation of the restriction transformed into millions of starlight rays that shot into the sky and suppressed the immortal hall. Bang, bang, bang. Terrifying sounds of collisions resounded. The immortal hall circulated the power of the divine path and continuously dissolved the power of the restriction that came from all directions. But it was very obvious that it wasn't able to hold on in the end, and it was smashed into the depths of the violently roiling silver seawater. After that, it fell silent. It didn't fly out again. The others stopped attacking when they saw this, and they were terrified to the point their scalps went numb while their entire bodies stiffened as if they'd fallen into an icy pit. That was a saint treasure, the most renowned ultimate treasure of the pure land of longevity. How could it possibly be suppressed just like that? This was truly too terrifying. After all, every single saint treasure was branded with the laws of the divine path, and it contained an artifact spirit that could compare to a saint. If a saint treasure wanted to flee, then it was practically unstoppable. Yet now, the immortal hall had been suppressed into the depths of the silver sea and had vanished without a trace. How could the other kings not be shocked by this? Meanwhile, Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he'd seized this opportunity to attack Zhong Wenyuan. No one would resign themselves to death, especially the experts that were capable of becoming kings. All of them were ruthless and extremely experienced in battle. When he saw Lin Sun approach, Zhong Wenyuan didn't hesitate to activate the Through Heaven sword, and it emanated a brilliant ray of light that seemed as if it could tear the sky apart. Bang! A heavenly saber, transformed from a restriction, swept out, and it easily crushed and destroyed everything. Meanwhile, Lin Sun punched at Zhong Wenyuan. Zhong Wenyuan retreated violently, and the Through Heaven sword emitted a clear cry, burst out with blazing sword intent, and slashed fiercely. However, such an attack that could kill a King Realm expert couldn't even break Lin Sun's fist force at this moment, and it was suppressed to the point of wailing incessantly. Bang! In the end, the Through Heaven sword flew out of his hand, and Lin Sun's fist force enveloped Zhong Wenyuan like a hot knife through butter. No! Zhong Wenyuan screamed in shock, and he struggled madly. But in the end, his body was still blasted apart by the brilliant fist force. His spirit swept out, and he tried to flee in panic, but it was caught by Lin Sun and crushed by him. The light of his spirit fluttered in the air, and it was as magnificent as a dream. It made Lin Sun look like an invincible devil, and he was boundlessly terrifying. Bang! But at the same time, Lin Sun suffered a terrible impact from behind, and the brilliant heaven-suppressing ruler hit his back fiercely. It was the king of the heavens' pivot holy land who attacked Lin Sun while Zhong Wenyuan was being killed. But before the king could rejoice, he saw a divine beast suddenly jump out of Lin Sun's back, and its whole body was wrapped in terrible restrictive fluctuations. It stretched out its claw and hit the heaven-suppressing ruler thousands of meters away. The king also spat out blood as if he was struck by lightning, and he suffered a backlash. He was extremely horrified, and he retreated in panic. But Lin Sun didn't pay attention to him. After suffering such an attack, he didn't even look back. Instead, he was suppressing the Through Heaven sword. Rumble between the sky and the sea, the terrible restrictive fluctuations turned into a divine rainbow of starlight, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. As the most precious treasure of the sky-reaching sword sect, the Through Heaven sword was even more powerful than the Palace of Immortals. But in the blink of an eye, the Through Heaven sword couldn't bear it anymore, and it was suppressed into the sea, whining as if unwilling. Then, like the Palace of Immortals, there was no more movement. The second holy treasure was suppressed. Chapter 1101. Dumbfounded. This was the only word that could describe how Go Yangjia and the other kings felt. After being too shocked and out of their expectations, even with their strong Taoist hearts, they could not help but be thrown into disarray by the previous scenes. A young man at the reincarnation developing realm, after borrowing the forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea, had transformed from an ant into a dragon in the sky, killing kings as easily as tearing paintings. Who would dare to believe that he was invincible? The most terrifying thing was that even the holy treasures were being suppressed. At this moment, Lin Sun was bathed in starlight, like a demon god. He had become the only ruler of this world, and his power was boundlessly terrifying. Who would dare to believe that this was just a reincarnation developing realm cultivator? Run! Go Yangjia and the other three made a decision without hesitation. Emotion was dead, and so was Zhong Wenyuan. If they did not leave now, they were destined to suffer. As a king, and with a powerful killing weapon like the holy treasures, they had no choice but to flee. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation. But at this moment, who could care about that in order to survive? Flee? The only way out for you is to be buried here. With an indifferent and cold voice, Lin Sun attacked. Boom! He used the Swanee seal, which was surrounded by the power of the restriction. It descended from the sky like a seal from heaven. Go Yangjia, who was running away, suddenly sensed fatal danger. He let out a roar and took out the blood prison seal to block it. But it was in vain. He was constantly being crushed by the Swanee seal. Even the blood prison seal was shaking violently in the void hand for a while. In the end, the blood prison seal could not take it anymore and was pressed into the depths of the sea. At this moment, Lin Sun had already killed his way to another king. In this area of the sea, Lin Sun, who controlled the power of the restriction, was the undisputed ruler. If he wanted to escape, he had to agree to it. Otherwise, even a sage would find it difficult to escape. This was not an exaggeration. In the past, there had been true sages who were lost in the Star-Chest Sea and could not find their way back. It was very likely that they had met with a calamity. Even though the power that Lin Sun could borrow was less than 1,000th of the heavenly cycle star formation, it was more than enough to deal with a few king. If not for the obstruction of the holy treasures, the battle would probably have ended long ago. Dong! A streak of starlight descended and smashed onto the violet-treasured umbrella, producing a drumming sound. The king of the numinous treasure, Holy Land, shuddered. His body felt as if it had been trampled by thousands of soldiers and horses, causing him to feel a boundless pain. He couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. When he was about to dodge, Lin Sun had already rushed him. Puff! With just a single punch, this king's body exploded, and even his primordial spirit didn't have time to escape before he died with a grievance. Dang! 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 A gold and jade archive contended against the restrictive ripples surging in from all directions. The sound of metal clashing rang out incessantly, and divine splendor splashed in all directions. A moment later, the gold and jade archive was pushed into the sea. At the same time, the king of the vast sea Taoism sect begged for mercy with a trembling voice, and he was in a panic like a stray dog. But in the end, he was killed by Lin Sun without the slightest hesitation, and both his body and soul were annihilated. Only the heavens' pivot, sacred grounds king was left. A wall of starlight blocked his way, and he was using the heaven-suppressing ruler to break through it. However, this same artifact that was said to be able to suppress the heavens could not even break through a wall formed by an invisible restriction. It was hopeless. However, it wasn't that the heaven-suppressing ruler wasn't powerful, but it was difficult for this king to exert its power. In the end, he was killed with endless unwillingness before he died. The surging sea, the turbulent and collapsing sky, and the starlight dancing wildly between heaven and earth when everything calmed down. Only Lin Sun was left in the field. He stood on the isolated island, his moon-white clothes fluttering in the wind, and his black hair flying in the wind. His deep black eyes were scanning the depths of the sea in front of him. In the first batch, 8 kings were killed. In the second batch, 6 kings were killed. This was already a brilliant achievement that was sufficient to shock the world, and it was brilliant and gorgeous to the extreme. But Lin Sun didn't feel any joy or pride, because he knew that this only proved the power and terror of the heavenly cycle star formation, and it had little to do with him. At best, he just borrowed the power of the heavenly cycle star formation. However, it still made Lin Sun feel great to be able to kill a group of kings, and the accumulated hatred and anger in his heart were vented to a certain extent. What a pity, Lin Sun thought for a moment and came to a conclusion. Although the Sky Understanding Sword, the Longevity Hall, the Blood Prison Seal, the Violet Treasure Umbrella, the heaven-suppressing ruler, and the golden jade archive were all suppressed at the bottom of the sea. They couldn't be refined. The bottom of the sea was the core forbidden area of the heavenly cycle star formation. It contained supreme mysteries, obscure and complicated, and the power it contained was extremely terrifying. Although Lin Sun had inherited the heavenly cycle star diagram, he didn't dare to enter the bottom of the sea with his current strength. Now, 6 holy treasures were trapped in it, and they kept rushing around trying to get out of it. Unfortunately, it was like a fish falling into a net. Unless the net could be torn apart, it was destined to be difficult to escape. What made Lin Sun feel pity was that he thought he could take this opportunity to refine some holy treasures. But it was obvious that this was destined to be impossible. But this is good. At least, the loss of a holy treasure is enough to cause a heavy blow to those ancient orthodoxies. Lin Sun thought. Then, he sat cross-legged and began to meditate to restore the physical strength he had consumed. By the star chest sea, as time passed, the powerhouses of the orthodoxies, who were originally waiting confidently for good news, became a little impatient. What's going on? There's no news again? Go Yan's patience was worn out, and he roared angrily, "Don't tell me that we can't kill a little bastard in the reincarnation development realm, even with holy treasures." The other orthodoxies also frowned, feeling very puzzled. The first batch sent out 8 kings, but there was no news for a long time. The second batch sent out another 6 kings, each with a holy treasure. In the end, there was still no news until now. Who could remain calm? Uncle Ma. Could there have been an accident? Kong Ling asked with a frown. Shut up. It was rare that Ma Yuanqing, who had always been very confident, had a gloomy face at this moment. He seemed to be in a bad mood. Obviously, Ma Yuanqing was also a little surprised and doubtful about the long time no news. He could no longer be as calm as before. Not only the Heavenly Sword sect, but the other orthodoxies were also similar. They were all surprised and doubtful, and their hearts were shrouded in shadow. Since ancient times, the Star Chest Sea had been regarded as a forbidden area. It contained great terror, and even sages did not dare to enter it. Presently, the fluctuations of the restrictions on the ocean had vanished, so it ought to pose no threat to them at all. However, it just so happened that not a single King Realm expert had returned. There must have been an accident. Otherwise, even if we can't find Lin Sun, there should be news back. Someone murmured with a serious expression. It's been almost 6 hours. Are we going to keep waiting like this? Some people felt impatient and could not stand such a passive situation. Damn it, we just haven't been able to kill Lin Sun until now. Is this guy really unkillable? Some people were so angry that they gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. For a time, the coast was filled with all kinds of noises and buzzing noises. Not to mention the young people like Go Yanjin, Yu Ling Kong, Li Qingping, and Kong Ling. Even the old monsters of the king's realm looked terrible. What had happened in the depths of the Star Chest Sea? Many old monsters looked towards the Star Chest Sea. Although they could not sense any fluctuations of the restriction, the calmer the scene was, the more they felt an indescribable pressure. Suddenly, the old monster of the king's realm, Go Yangxiu, narrowed his eyes and said, Lin Sun, how is it possible that this guy is still alive? The others also saw that there was a lone figure walking on the waves of the sea in the distance. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he looked elegant and otherworldly. It's really him. Go Yanjin roared and gnashed his teeth in hatred. Even if Lin Sun turned into ashes, he could smell the abominable smell on him. The other kings haven't returned yet. How is it possible that this guy appeared first? How is this possible? Some people were shocked and bewildered. Could it be that none of the kings who entered the Star Chest Sea discovered this guy? It seemed very unbelievable. But soon, all the restlessness turned into uncontrollable killing intent when they saw Lin Sun approaching the coast. They had waited too long to kill Lin Sun. From yesterday until now, their patience had long since been worn out, and they even had a belly full of anger because of this. Little bastard, how dare you show up on your own initiative? There is a way to heaven, but you choose to come to hell instead. Go Yinjin roared with a ferocious and terrible look. Lin Sun, you're really bold to show up here. I thought you would hide in the sea for the rest of your life. Yu Kong said coldly with a calm look. Uncle Ma, kill this man. Kong Ling couldn't wait to tear Lin Sun into pieces. In the distance, Lin Sun stopped 3,000 meters away from the coast, his eyes cold. He glanced at the people on the coast and said, "You're brave enough to wait here. I hope you can continue to wait later." As soon as these words came out, many kings frowned. They were keenly aware that the meaning of Lin Sun's words was somewhat intriguing. Arrogant. After killing you, why should we wait any longer? Go Yinjin shouted coldly. Noisy, Lin Sun spat out 2 words. Without looking at them, he waved his sleeve. An incomparably dazzling starlight descended from the sky, like a scythe of the heavenly Tao that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Puff! Go Yinjin was still grinning hideously. Before he could react, his body suddenly exploded, and his body and soul were destroyed. He didn't even prepare for death. It was too sudden. In an instant, there was a dead silence in the field. Everyone's eyes widened. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Go Yinjin was killed before most of them could react. Chapter 11:02. Little bastard, you're courting death. In the field, Go Yangxiu was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was extremely furious, and his whole body exuded an extremely violent and bloodthirsty aura. He was a king. When Go Yinjin was killed, he was less than 3 meters away from him. But he didn't have time to rescue Lin Sun. Go Yinjin was a top figure of the Black Demon Dog clan, with the potential of a small giant. When the Great Era came, he was destined to seize the opportunity to become a king. But now, his body and soul were both destroyed, and not even his bones were left. This made Go Yangxiu completely furious. Boom! Without any hesitation, he rushed to the sky with scarlet eyes and dense killing intent. His whole body was surrounded by surging Taoist light, and his power was monstrous and terrifying. In the blink of an eye, he had come to the Star Chest Sea and struck at Lin Sun with his palm. An enraged King Realm cultivator was undoubtedly terrifying. Seeing this scene, the strong practitioners of other orthodoxies gasped. This old dog was obviously really angry. As soon as he attacked, he used a killing move. However, before the palm hit, a dazzling long saber appeared in the void, condensed by dazzling starlight. Bang! The palm and the saber collided. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The nearby sea collapsed. Dazzling Taoist light flowed, and the terrifying aftermath spread, distorting and collapsing the void as if it was about to be melted. However, a scene that shocked everyone happened. Only Lin Sun, who was in the reincarnation development realm, was unscathed. On the contrary, Go Yangxiu, a king who had stepped into the longevity realm, had his right arm chopped off. Half of his body was almost split open, and blood was splashing like a waterfall. This is not your power, Go Yangxiu screamed. His initial anger turned into fear and trembling. One blow had seriously injured him and almost killed him. Who could believe this? The deadly, dangerous breath made Go Yangxiu turn around and retreat without hesitation. Puff! In the void, Lin Sun suddenly clenched his fist and attacked. The fist force was dazzling, like starlight covering the ground. In an instant, Go Yangxiu's figure was shrouded and then exploded. Blood rained down. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Go Yangxiu, a king with terrifying combat strength, was blown up by one punch. The whole place was dead silent. If one were to say that Go Yin had really died earlier, it was because he had been caught off guard, which was surprising and shocking. Then Go Yangxiu's death was like a thunderclap that shook everyone to the point their scalps went numb. Their souls palpitated, and their hairs stood on end. How is this possible? How could he kill a king so easily? Yu Kong, Li Qingping, Kong Ling, and the others could no longer remain calm. They were waiting here and couldn't wait to kill Lin Sun and wipe out the enemy they regarded as a hidden danger. Who would have thought that the situation would take such a drastic turn? That was a king tier. He was killed so easily. It wasn't just them. The old monsters of the other orthodoxies were also shocked to the point their eyeballs bulged out. "This is impossible," Li Qingping roared. He lost control of his emotions and was unable to accept this. Puff! In the distance, Lin Sun pointed his finger, and a wisp of starlight condensed and fell down. Then, Li Qingping's body exploded. He died on the spot. All of a sudden, everyone almost went crazy. At this moment, Lin Sun was completely beyond their imagination. He was like a dominator who controlled life and death, and he could take lives with a raise of his hand. Why? Why is this happening? Kong Ling was also screaming. Her pretty face was pale, and she could not believe it. The scenes were like a nightmare. It happened too quickly, and anyone would probably lose their minds. "Let's go." Ma Yuanqing's expression changed. He waved his sleeves and led Kong Ling and the other successors of a younger generation in the direction of the Frost Glacier. He could already tell that it wasn't that Lin Sun's combat strength had transformed to a terrifying level, but that he had borrowed the supreme forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea. "Let's go. Let's get out of here." This lad borrowed the forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea. He is invincible in this world. No one could be his match. At the same time, the old monsters of the other orthodoxies finally saw the truth. They did not dare to hesitate and chose to retreat without hesitation, leaving the Star Chest Sea. Even if they had no idea how Lin Sun had borrowed the forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea, they had no choice but to retreat. This choice was undoubtedly very depressing. Previously, they had waited here bitterly, mobilizing many kings and seeing Lin Sun as prey. They were not worried about not being able to kill him, but worried about who would be the first to kill him. Who would have thought that everything would change too quickly? The prey was no longer prey. Instead, he had become an invincible ruler, killing kings like killing chickens. This was something that no one had expected. At this moment, Lin Sun naturally could not let these enemies leave without doing anything. He had already launched his attack the moment the other party chose to flee. Rumble. The originally calm Star Chest Sea suddenly surged, and misty starlight appeared. Countless resplendent stars appeared in the sky. Lin Sun's entire body was bathed in them, as though he was the ruler of the stars. His black eyes were cold and deep, and he used the forbidden power of the heavenly cycle star formation to the extreme. In the void, streaks of starlight shot out like divine rainbows that blotted out the sky and earth. They condensed into the forms of sabers, swords, spears, halberds, and so on, and shot out explosively. Puffed, puffed. In an instant, cultivators were wiped out one by one. Their speed of escape was extremely fast, but how could they be faster than such an unparalleled killing intent? Blood rained down. Screams rang out. The world seemed to have turned into purgatory. The experts of the Heavenly Sword sect, the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land, the Lingbao Holy Land, the Tsonglan Taoist sect, the Pure Land of Longevity, the Black Sea Tengu tribe, and other ancient orthodoxies were all panicking like stray dogs. They were furious and terrified to the extreme. At every moment, there were experts dying on the spot, their bodies and souls destroyed. Even the old monsters of the King Realm were like weeds at this moment. They used all their strength, but they could not stop such a killing power at all. Their lives were easily taken. This scene was undoubtedly too terrifying. The area near the coast was like a bloody azure field. Screams, wails, and roars reverberated between heaven and earth, causing the weather to change. Kong Ling was killed. Even with Ma Yuanqing's protection, she could not escape death. Even at the moment of her death, she could not believe that she would die here. She still had a golden cicada jade talisman in her hand. She could have used it to escape, but she was a little too late. Yu Lingkong escaped because Shang Wenjin blocked the killing power, but Shang Wenjin, a king, was killed on the spot. Similar bloody scenes were playing out one after another. Although it took a long time to describe, it actually happened in a few breaths. In the end, the major orthodoxies lost more than half of their experts. Only a small portion escaped and disappeared into the depths of the frost tundra. No one dared to look back. Lin Sun stopped his attack from afar. Although he also felt a little indignant, he was helpless because the forbidden power of the Star Chest Sea could only be limited to this world. It could not accompany him to kill the enemy. Otherwise, none of the experts of the ancient orthodoxies would be able to escape today. On the coast, the ground was cracked and devastated. There were dark red pools of blood everywhere. It was a ghastly sight. The smell of blood was too strong, and it did not dissipate for a long time. This battle was a complete massacre. The major ancient orthodoxies could be said to have suffered heavy casualties. Not only did the talented figures of the younger generation die, but there were also many king realm existences. The sea breeze blew gently. Lin Sun pondered for a moment. He did not take the opportunity to leave, but turned around and returned to the depths of the star-chest sea. Like before, the billowing starlight filled the world of the star-chest sea. It was mysterious and frightening, just like a forbidden land. Lin Sun knew that while it was satisfying to kill the enemies this time, it was destined to cause a storm that would engulf the entire ancient desolation region. After suffering such a heavy blow, the ancient orthodoxies were destined to not let the matter rest. If he left the star-chest sea now, Lin Sun did not even need to think to know that what awaited him was an immeasurable storm. Lin Sun intended to lie low in the star-chest sea for a period of time to lie low. With the protection of the heavenly cycle stars formation, Lin Sun was confident that even a sage would not be able to do anything to him. On the lone island, Lin Sun's figure floated down, and he sat cross-legged on a craggy rock. According to the deduction of the woman in the heaven-accessing secret realm, the great era will arrive in a year at most. At that time, the Tianjiao Golden Ranking will definitely appear in the world. However, before that, there's still the 4-world star ranking competition. Those who can make it into the top 10 can be called the true top powerhouses. Lin Sun took a deep breath and sat cross-legged to meditate. He was thinking about his future path of cultivation. Yin Zhanxiu, Wang Xuanyu, Mi Hongjin, Yi Mo, and other geniuses of the previous generation belong to the old top powerhouses. Their combat strength is destined to be incomparably strong. If I want to compete with them, I should not be too far behind them with my current combat strength. However, if I want to stand out and surpass those who have already become top powerhouses, it's hard to say. Lin Sun did not realize that after this junior powerhouse ranking competition and a year of closed-door cultivation in the immortal secret realm, his vision had already surpassed that of his peers. In his heart, in today's world, only the old top powerhouses like Yin Zhanxiu, Wang Xuanyu, and Mi Hongjin were worthy of his attention. Of course, this also included Yun Qingbai. In Lin Sun's opinion, Yun Qingbai was definitely stronger than Yin Zhanxiu and the others. I haven't comprehended the ultimacy of immortality yet. I haven't completely mastered the 6 cuts of Heavenly Yuan either. If I want to improve the power of the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon, I have to make a breakthrough in the way of the true dragon. After thinking silently for a long time, Lin Sun already had a clear direction to work towards. He had decided to stay dormant here and further improve his combat strength while avoiding the disturbances of the outside world. After a long time, Lin Sun sat cross-legged on the rock like a clay statue and completely entered into cultivation. In the distance, the starlight was like mist enshrouding the world. As Lin Sun speculated, the news of the bloody massacre in the star-chest sea caused a great shock as soon as it came out on that day. Moreover, the shock was spreading at an amazing speed from the Dongxing world to the other 3 realms of the ancient desolation realm. P.S. The goldfish has a fever, 38.5 degrees. His whole body was hot, and his head was heavy. He forced himself to write this chapter. If his physical strength was still good after the injection, he would continue to write the second chapter. Chapter 11:03. As early as the end of the list of junior giants, the Wind Talker clan had already spread what happened in the immortal Forbidden Land. It had to be said that the Golden News Leaf was very powerful. In just one day, the news about the list of junior giants spread rapidly in Detone Province, one of the 4 major realms of the ancient desolation. Among them, the ranking of the list of junior giants was undoubtedly the most concerned by all practitioners. However, when they learned that the first place was Lin Sun, a young man from the mortal world, it still caused an uproar. Many top figures of ancient orthodoxies participated in the competition, but a young man without any sect won the first place. Such a thing had never happened in the past. Why? Was he, demon god Lin, really that strong? Even the top figures of those ancient orthodoxies are not as powerful as him. This was the first reaction of many practitioners. However, when the Wind Talker clan showed Lin Sun's performance in the immortal Forbidden Land one by one, all the doubts were answered. As soon as the scene of Lin Sun fighting against a group of talent alone was exposed, it caused a great sensation and made countless practitioners dumbfounded. Everyone could see that compared with the practitioners of other ancient orthodoxies, Lin Sun was undoubtedly in the most dangerous situation when he was guarding the mountain. He was regarded as a thorn in the side, and everyone wanted to pull him out. But in the end, he killed a group of heavenly talents alone, defended a mountain with a domineering attitude, and ranked in the top 36 of the list of junior giants. Thus, he was qualified to participate in the second round of competition. And Lin Sun's performance in the second round was even more dazzling and remarkable. When the duels between him and Go Yanjin, Li Qingping, and Bai Donglu were exposed, the whole world was shocked. He was too strong. This was the cognition of all practitioners. Even Go Yanjin's self-explosion didn't eliminate Demon Lin, which was like a miracle, until the last round of duels. No matter if it was the bet of 3 moves with Jin Muyun, the unparalleled battle with the sword devil Yi Chun, or the final battle between him and Saber Laughing at the Heavens that decided the outcome with a single move, all of them had caused countless sounds of uproar, exclamation of admiration, and astonishment. The ancient desolation was so large that it was divided into 4 major realms and countless provinces. But on the same day, in different worlds and provinces, Lin Sun's name, like a comet, entered the vision of countless practitioners. Demon God Lin. Demon God Lin. Demon God Lin. After witnessing Lin's various performances on the ranking of junior giants, all doubts and consternation turned into admiration, reverence, and amazement. A young man from the lower dimensions was able to step on the bodies of numerous geniuses, to rise up by himself, and seize the crown of the minor titan rankings in one go. How could anyone not feel admiration for this? Even some ancient orthodoxies were shocked and remembered Lin Sun thoroughly. From today onwards, who in the world will not know of you? On this day, countless cultivators sighed with emotion. But soon, another piece of news came out. Demon God Lin has offended many ancient orthodoxies. It's highly likely that he will meet with a calamity after leaving the undying Forbidden Land. A huge storm against Demon God Lin is about to unfold. Demon God Lin, who is hated by many orthodoxies, might become the shortest-lived person in history. According to reliable sources, the Heavenly Sword Sect, the Heaven's Pivot Sacred Ground, the Numinous Treasure Sacred Ground, the Black Sea Tengu clan, the Azure Sea Dao sect, and other orthodoxies have all sent out a large number of King Realm cultivators. Demon God Lin's life is uncertain. Will this young man, who rises like a comet, die prematurely? When the Wind Whisperer clan spread the news, the whole ancient desolation realm was completely stirred up and caused an uproar. Despicable. These ancient orthodoxies have gone too far. Many low-level cultivators were indignant and worried about Lin Sun, feeling that it was unfair. I had expected this. The taller the tree in the forest, the stronger it is, the easier it is for him to suffer unexpected suppression. Some older people also sighed with emotion and felt sorry for Lin Sun. In the final analysis, isn't it because they regard Demon God Lin as a loner with no background and think he is easy to bully? Alas, so what if they're angry? Demon God Lin has offended so many ancient orthodoxies. I'm afraid he is doomed this time. What a pity. On this day, whether Lin Sun would die or not also affected the heart of every cultivator. Most of them felt unworthy and sorry for him. The whole ancient desolation realm was not peaceful. Countless cultivators were anxiously waiting for the latest news. Countless orthodoxies were also paying attention. This was the influence of the first on the list of minor giants. It was enough to change the world. In the past, although Lin Sun had a great reputation, it was limited to the westward domain and the Dongxing domain. It was not enough to spread his name to the entire ancient desolation realm. But now it was completely different. Of course, Lin Sun did not die. In the battle in the Star Chest Sea, he had killed more than 20 old monsters in the King realm. Except for a small number of strong ones who had escaped, the others were all killed. This was a shocking matter. On the evening of the next day, the news spread and caused 1,000 ripples. Countless cultivators who had been paying attention anxiously were shocked. Demon God Lin did not die. Moreover, he had displayed his invincible might. He did not escape, nor was he injured. He had killed all the kings by himself. Most importantly, in this battle, he had killed many kings who had set foot on the path to immortality. Demon God Lin was invincible. Even the 6 saint treasures used by the orthodoxies could not do anything to Demon God Lin. As soon as such a glorious battle result spread, it immediately caused a great disturbance. Some ancient orthodoxies were shocked. Ordinary people did not know, but some well-informed forces were already shocked. Who can tell me how Demon God Lin managed to do that? Many cultivators almost went crazy. A young man at the reincarnation developing realm had slaughtered all the kings. This was too unbelievable. This time, those ancient orthodoxies suffered heavy losses. It is said that the Star Chest Sea has been dyed red by blood. The news spread at an astonishing speed. As time passed, the entire 4 realms of the ancient desolation were shocked. There was no other reason. Lin Sun's battle result was so dazzling that it could scare people to death. It had to be said that the cultivators of the Wind Whisperer clan were really amazing. They used the leaves of the golden message tree to record the bloody battle near the Star Chest Sea. When these images were spread, it immediately became the focus of attention of the whole world. Oh my God, Demon God Lin is truly heaven-defying. He's single-handedly slaughtering those kings to the point where they can't even resist him. Is he still at the reincarnation developing realm? He fought so many kings alone. How can he be so powerful? Wrong. This is not a fight, but a massacre. It is Demon God Lin who fought alone. He killed the kings like slaughtering chickens and monkeys. In the images, Lin Sun was bathed in dazzling starlight. He was abnormally dazzling like a dominator. Every move he made set off a bloody storm. He killed all the kings by himself. He was invincible. His disdainful demeanor was like a god descending to the world. Not to mention ordinary cultivators. Even formidable existences like kings broke out in cold sweat and felt their hearts palpitate when they witnessed this scene. There was a group of kings among them, but none of them could stop such a massacre. Instead, they were killed one by one, their bodies and souls destroyed. At that moment, Lin Sun was like a real demon god. He harvested the lives of the ancient orthodoxies cultivators as if he was cutting grass. The images captured by the Wind Whisperer clan recorded everything. Some kings were killed by Lin Sun with a single blow. They couldn't even block a single move. The bloody scene was simply suffocating. All of this was really incredible. It was like a miracle. I can imagine that after those ancient orthodoxies suffered such a great loss, there will be a great storm coming. Many people made such a judgment. In the next few days, the news about the bloody incident in the Star Chest Sea spread further. It became more and more fermented, spreading throughout the entire ancient desolation realm. Lin Sun's reputation rose further after he obtained the first place on the Minor Giants list. He reached an unprecedented level and was known by countless cultivators. No one could have imagined that Lin Sun, who was regarded as the most short-lived first place on the Minor Giants list in history, would miraculously survive. Instead, he could defeat all the major orthodoxies and kill many kings by himself. This incident caused a great commotion. It could be said to have attracted the attention of the world. At the same time, many orthodoxies started to head to the deepest part of the Frost Glacier to inquire about the news. Oh my God! No matter which orthodoxy it was, when they arrived at the shore of the Star Chest Sea and saw the terrifying scene, they all cried out in shock and gasped. Even though several days had passed, there were still pools of blood, broken limbs, and the earth cracked. Mountains had collapsed and turned into ravines. It was a scene of desolation. When these scenes were spread, all the major worlds were shocked. Was this still Lin's son? Ha ha ha! I knew that demon god Lin wouldn't lose. Those orthodoxies that bullied him are finally suffering a bloody revenge. So what if he doesn't belong to any sect? Demon god Lin can kill his way to the heavens with his own strength. The happiest and most delighted were undoubtedly the cultivators who admired Lin's son. They had a good impression of Lin's son and admired him greatly. When they heard the news, they were extremely excited. In the background of this uproar, the Heavenly Sword sect, the numinous treasure Holy Land, the Heavens Pivot Holy Land, and the other ancient orthodoxies were all enraged. Only they knew that they had not only lost many kings this time, but they had also lost 6 sage treasures. This was a great humiliation and a blood feud. We can die, but the Heavenly Sword can't be lost. On this day, an indifferent aura filled with a supreme aura sounded in the forbidden area of the Heavenly Sword sect. At the same time, a terrifying pressure of the sage Tao spread out, shaking the entire Heavenly Sword sect. It was also on this day that a skinny old man in sackcloth stepped into the void and teleported away in the blink of an eye. This was undoubtedly a sage. Only a sage could easily teleport through the void and traverse the boundless territories. P.S. The second update has been sent. Although it's a little late, I've persevered. My fever has subsided a little. I'll have to continue with Drip tomorrow, but it shouldn't affect the update. Chapter 1104. A saint from the Heavenly Sword sect had come out. The news could not be hidden at all, and the Heavenly Sword sect had no intention of hiding it either. The blow they had suffered this time was too great, and the sect's reputation had been affected. They urgently needed to wash away the humiliation and turn the tables. It's Fongling Su, the saint of the sword who became a saint 3,000 years ago. Soon, the exact news spread, shocking the world. Fongling Su was a dazzling saint. When he became a saint 3,000 years ago, he caused a huge commotion. Back then, countless old monsters from ancient orthodoxies had been attracted to the Heavenly Sword sect to watch the ceremony. It's been so many years since saints have been involved in worldly affairs. I never thought that Lord Fongling Su would make a move because of demon god Lin. Many cultivators were shocked. The news of a saint traveling was a huge commotion. It said that everything happened because of the Heavenly Sword. This sacred treasure was left behind by the Heavenly Sword sect's founding ancestor, and it cannot be lost. Now, this sacred sword seems to be suppressed by demon god Lin in the Star Chest Sea. Let's go and take a look at the Star Chest Sea. It's been so many years since we've seen a saint travel in person. I wonder what kind of storm it will cause this time. The travel of a saint attracted the attention of the world. Discussions about Fongling Su also became the most discussed topic. But not long after, another explosive piece of news came out. Heaven's Pivot Sacred Grounds, Saint Miao Hua has come out of seclusion. She has left the ancient Azure province on the Divine Bird Treasure Carriage and is heading to the Star Chest Sea. Miao Hua, a female saint who had shocked the world thousands of years ago. Suddenly, the entire world was shaken and stirred up a huge commotion. Countless cultivators were dumbfounded. Another saint had come out? How big of a crime did demon god Lin commit that even a saint would be unable to sit still? However, before the people of the world could recover from their shock, news after news spread out in succession, and it gave rise to an unprecedented storm that countless people hadn't expected. Numinous treasure, sacred grounds, Saint Dao Kuan is furious and has sent out a holy message to kill demon god Lin as a warning to others. Black Sea Tengu clan's Saint Bloodslaughter has come out of seclusion. Longevity Pure Land. Vast Sea Taoist sect. One after another, old monsters who had stepped into the Saint Plane moved out, completely shaking the world and throwing the world into chaos. Countless cultivators were extremely shocked. Demon god Lin had incurred the wrath of all the saints. The appearance of a sage was enough to cause great waves in the world. But now, a group of sages had moved together and all of them were targeting a young man like Fiend God Lin. This was definitely an unprecedented matter. Just this alone is sufficient for Demon God Lin to die without regrets, even if he encounters calamity this time. After all, who in the younger generation is capable of drawing the attention of so many saints like him? Someone sighed. He's a saint, yet he disregarded his status to deal with a junior. This is bullying. Sigh, it's too difficult to rise up alone. Take Fiend God Lin, for example. How dazzling is he? But now, he has to face the attacks of all the sages. How can he still have a chance of survival? Some people were also worried about Lin's situation. The world was in turmoil, and all the sages were mobilized because of Fiend God Lin. Many of the ancient orthodoxies in the world could not remain calm as their gazes were drawn to him. Despicable. When he heard the news, Xiao Qinghe, who had just returned to Sun Moon Hall, was so angry that his whole body trembled. However, after calming down, he felt extremely powerless. With so many sages moving out, even if he wanted to help, it would be useless. Even if he asked the sect for help. But which orthodoxy would confront those sages for an outsider? Xiao Qinghe felt extremely sorrowful. For the first time, he noticed that if one didn't possess sufficient strength, then even helping a friend would become so difficult and helpless. All of you will suffer retribution sooner or later. When Zhao Jingxian heard the news, she felt an inexplicable pain in her heart, and her pretty face turned pale. She knew that she was destined to be powerless to stop it, so she left the sect without hesitation and returned to the lower realm to seek help from her parents. However, before she could leave the sect, she was stopped by the upper echelons of the sect. She was invited to the back mountain for seclusion and completely cut off from contact with the outside world. This made Zhao Jingshuan's heart completely cold. Clang! Crepe Myrtle Mountain, Yi Clan, Ancestral Shrine. Yi Chan kicked open the tightly shut door of the main hall. Old ancestor, if you continue to hide from me, believe it or not, I'll tear down this place of your residence. Yi Chen shouted in an aggressive manner. In the distance, the upper echelons of the Yi clan looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They couldn't figure out why Yi Chan would be so anxious and furious because of Demon God Lin. Old ancestor, you're not coming out, right? Then I'll smash these precious flowers and plants of yours. The sound of things being smashed resounded in the main hall. Outside the main hall, the upper echelons of the Yi clan were troubled. They wanted to stop Yi Chun, but they were stopped by the middle-aged man in the lead. He cultivates in following his heart. No one can stop him if his heart doesn't follow his heart. Oh, I remember that this pot of divine light, drifting grass, was a token of love from the old ancestor when he was young. Right? Since you won't show yourself, then I'll smash it. Yi Chen muttered to himself in the main hall. Stop! Outside the main hall, the upper echelons of the Yi clan instantly panicked. But right at this moment, a furious voice resounded in the main hall. Bastard, are you addicted to bullying this old man? Along with this voice, a strand of boundlessly terrifying pressure of the Saint Dao swept out from within the main hall. Old ancestor. When the upper echelons of the Yi clan saw this, they secretly heaved a sigh of relief and tacitly left. In the main hall, an old man with unkempt hair and a figure like a lone pine tree on a cliff appeared in front of Yi Chun. He was so angry that he was glaring at Yi Chun. However, Yi Chun wasn't afraid. He said, Old ancestor, just tell me if you're going to help me or not. The old man said angrily, No one can help me with this. I can only let that kid Lin resolve it himself. Then I'll smash it. Yi Chun raised the flower pot in his hand and was about to smash it on the ground. The old man grabbed the flower pot in shock and roared, For Demon God Lin, you bastard, you don't even want to acknowledge your old ancestor? Yi Chun suddenly sighed with a desolate expression. I cultivate in following my heart. If my heart doesn't follow my heart, it will definitely obstruct my great Tao. This is an inner demon. Old ancestor, are you going to watch my path of Tao stop here? Bullsh asterisk T, inner demon. You're just F asterisk king bullying an old man like me. The old man was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. Yi Chen sighed again with a gloomy look. It seemed that he was disheartened. He turned around and was about to leave. Seeing this, the old man's lips twitched fiercely. He said angrily, "If you dare to leave like this, I won't help you at all." Yichen's eyes lit up, and he immediately stopped moving. His face glowed with radiance as he bowed respectfully towards the old man and said, "Thank you, Ancestor. I know that Ancestor is a righteous and warm-hearted person, and you can't tolerate any unfairness in the world." The old man spat. "Don't talk nonsense. Let's get down to business." As he spoke, he looked solemn, as if he had become another person in an instant. He was solemn and dignified, giving people a sense of infinity that they could only look up to. "Chinner, if you trust old Ancestor, you can just sit back and watch the situation." The old man's eyes were deep and frightening, with a touch of secretiveness on his face. "In my opinion, Lin Sun is not a short-lived person." Yichen frowned. "It's different this time. A group of sages is going to act together. As a guy who hasn't become a king yet, he has no chance to escape at all." The old man shook his head. "You are too concerned. Since you became friends with Lin Sun, I have been paying attention to him. And when you returned from the eternal forbidden land, I made a divination for him with little Z-Way fate tactics." "Old Ancestor, you?" Yi Chen's face suddenly changed, and he cried out involuntarily. Little Z-Way fate tactics. This was a kind of taboo skill for deducing fate and mysteries of heaven. Every time it was used, it would bring a disaster to the caster. If it was light, it would damage the path of cultivation. If it was heavy, it was very likely to be punished by heaven. The old man waved his hand, interrupted Yi Chen's words, and said with a smile, "I watched you grow up. I have never seen you value any peer so much. You are so concerned about the safety of Lin Sun, which shows that you have already treated him as a friend. In this case, what's the big deal about deducing fate for him?" Yi Chen's heart was shaking and tumbling. For a moment, all kinds of unspeakable, complex emotions surged in his heart. He opened his mouth to speak, but he didn't know what to say. The old man patted him on the shoulder and said, "It's fine as long as you follow your heart. Back then, I also cultivated to follow my heart, but now there's a block in my heart, and I can't really follow my heart, so I've been stuck in the Saint realm all these years. But you're different. I hope you could be the first strong person in our Yi family to follow your heart and step into the Saint realm." Yi Chen looked solemn and nodded. "I will not let you down." The old man laughed and said, "Let's not talk about this. Do you know what I deduced about Lin Sun's birth destiny?" Before Yi Chen could speak, the old man had already spat out 8 words from his lips. "A hidden dragon in the abyss moves in the face of tribulation." Every word was like the sonorous voice of the Great Way, which made Yi Chen feel a sense of foreboding. The worries and anxiety in his heart were also swept away. But immediately, Yi Chen couldn't help asking, "So, he will be all right this time?" The old man shook his head. The momentum of the hidden dragon may also become the situation of the trapped dragon. Everything is hard to say, but it is not so easy to kill a dragon in the abyss. It is very likely. Yi Chen couldn't help asking, "Very likely what?" The old man's expression suddenly became strange, and he said, "Chunner, you can trust me. Just sit and watch the storm." After that, Yi Chen just wanted to ask something, but the old man's figure had suddenly disappeared. He didn't pester the old man any longer. He was keenly aware that there was something unusual in the words of the old man. It seemed that this killing tribulation might become another form. "As long as Lin Sun is alive, I don't care if he is a hidden dragon or a trapped dragon. But if he dies," Yi Chen's eyes were cold, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Then I will make a mess." Chapter 1105. The whole ancient desolation was shocked by the sage's departure. Not only in the Yi clan of Crepe Myrtle Mountain, but also in an ancient secret realm in the Baidu world, laughing at the heavens was standing in front of an old woman. The old woman's hair was as white as snow, but her skin was as smooth as a baby's. She was hale and hearty, full of dignity. Just by sitting there casually, he exuded an aura that could overlook the universe and deter all directions. "Grandmother, you know I'm not convinced by Lin Sun. In the junior tycoon list, I was ranked second, because of one move's difference. How can I tolerate this? In the outside world, laughing at the heavens was arrogant and unparalleled. But now, he was complaining with a bitter face. The contrast was so great that it was sufficient to stun everyone. But if Lin Sun is killed this time, I won't be able to regain my face in the future. You used to love me the most. The old woman seemed to be unable to bear it. She hurriedly waved her hand and interrupted, all right. You just want my help, don't you?" Laughing at the heavens, hurriedly nodded. "You really do have a keen eye. Nothing can escape your discerning eyes." The old woman snorted, "Don't flatter me. Let me tell you, the old man who is obsessed with gardening in Crepe Myrtle Mountain has sent me a message. There's a mystery behind this. We just need to wait and see." The old man who is obsessed with gardening? Laughing at the heavens, immediately understood that the old woman should be talking about the ancestor of Crepe Myrtle Mountain, a living fossil. What mystery? He couldn't help but ask. A hidden dragon moves in the face of a disaster. The old woman's eyes surged with a meaningful luster. It's not easy for your friend to be killed. Friend? What friend? I don't recognize him. Laughing at the heavens shouted. The old woman squinted at him and said, "If we weren't friends, would you be willing to let my old bones fight against those sages?" Laughing at the heavens was a little embarrassed, but in his heart, he let out a sigh of relief. Even the ancestor of Crepe Myrtle Mountain was paying attention to this matter. It seemed that Lin Sun still had a chance to survive, no matter how bad his situation was. "Little Tian, let me ask you, if this child were to meet with misfortune and die, what would you do?" The old woman suddenly asked. Laughing at the heavens shuddered, and his expression flickered. After a long time, he finally said, "I'll be very unhappy. So what if I'm unhappy? Whoever makes me unhappy, I'll make them unhappy." Laughing at the heavens replied without hesitation. A smile appeared on the corners of the old woman's mouth. When the entire 4 major realms of the region of ancient desolation were in an uproar, the quiet void at the shore of the Star-Chess Sea suddenly rumbled. In an instant, the figures of some cultivators trembled, and they looked up into the sky with astonishment. All of these cultivators had heard the news a few days ago, and they'd come here for the sake of observing and investigating the ruins of the battle that had erupted in this area. Boom! Under the gazes of everyone, space suddenly exploded into pieces, and then a bright golden ray of light flashed out and shot down. A figure that was bathed in divine radiance stood on the path, and the heavens and the earth seemed to have dimmed down and bowed before it. Everyone trembled while their bodies and minds were oppressed to the limit. When looked at from afar, the figure was mighty like a mountain, and it emanated a fierce and oppressive aura that seemed capable of seizing the soul of others. "This is a place of trouble. All of you withdraw." A rumbling voice resounded through the heavens and the earth like a thunderclap. The divine figure flicked his sleeve, and he didn't allow anyone to refuse at all before he swept everyone into an expanse of divine radiance and drove them out of this place. After that, the divine radiance faded while the figure descended to the ground, and he transformed into a barefooted old man in linen clothes with a thin appearance. He had his hand behind his back as he gazed at the Star-Chess Sea from afar, and his eyes surged with the extremely shocking scenes of the sun and moon rising and falling, mountains and rivers changing, and so on and so forth. This old man was naturally the heavenly sword sex Fong Ling Su, a terrifying existence that had stepped foot into the saint realm of Sword Dao 3,000 years ago. I sense it. The heavenly sword is trapped within it, and it's waiting to be rescued by me. Fong Ling Su muttered. A shocking sword insight shot into the sky from his body, and it tore apart the layer of clouds and slashed apart the sky. This was the embodiment of the saint realm Sword Dao, and it was capable of shocking the gods and suppressing the surroundings. This sea is covered in a supreme divine formation, and according to legend, it was created by an extraordinary great figure in the ancient times. If you intend to retrieve the saint treasure, then you must first enter this formation. I wonder if fellow Taoist has a way to deal with it? Accompanying this voice was a divine flying beast that descended from the sky, and a woman with an extraordinary appearance that wore a crane's cloak sat upright on the divine flying beast. Her eyes were bright golden like a pair of small suns. The heavens pivot divine grounds, Saint Miao Hua. She walked down from the divine flying beast and floated over to stand before Fong Ling Su. And then her eyes looked towards the star-chest sea in the distance. This formation is called the universe stars, and it's connected to the myriad of stars in the heavens and the earth. Since ancient times until now, no one has been able to break through it. Another deep and powerful voice resounded in the heavens and the earth. A battlefield rumbled and crushed through the void, bringing with it a desolate, ancient feeling and a surging, killing intent. A figure sat within it, and his might covered the heavens and the earth. Saint Dao Kuan of the numinous treasure, Holy Land. At the instant he walked out from the chariot, the heavens and the earth trembled, as if they were about to be unable to withstand the pressure coming from his body. No one can break through it, but it doesn't mean that there's no way to deal with it. Another saint had arrived. This was a middle-aged man, and the phenomenon of mountains of corpses and seas of blood flowed around him. When he strode forward, ghosts wailed and gods howled, and a terrifying scene of a bloody purgatory appeared in the heavens and the earth. Saint Shuetu of the Black Sea Dog clan. He held a blood-red saber in his hand, and his entire person was like a bloodthirsty god of death. Merely the bloody aura emanating from his body was enough to disturb the heavens and the earth, and it was almost suffocating. Almost at the same time, Fong Ling Su, Miao Hua, and Dao Kuan frowned imperceptibly, as if they were opposed to Shui Tu's arrival, but they did not say anything in the end. I didn't expect that all of us would appear here together because of a tiny ant. If word of this spreads, I wonder how the world will view us. Miao Hua sighed faintly. There are countless mediocre people in this world. Their vision is short-sighted and humble. How can they affect us? Fong Ling Su's voice was indifferent. Ha! Dao Kuan started laughing, and it carried piercingly cold, killing intent and a type of carefree expression. 6 saint artifacts are trapped in this ocean. If we still didn't come, then I'm afraid they would be seized away by other fellow Taoists. Everyone's eyes flickered, and they all understood the meaning of Dao Kuan's words. The 6 saint treasures could all be called sect guarding. No matter which one of them was lost, it would be a heavy loss for the sect behind them. Why did all these saints come out? The reason was that they were worried that the saint treasures would be taken away by the strong practitioners of other orthodoxies. As for killing Lin Sun, it was a trivial matter. When the time came, it would be enough to wipe him out conveniently. An ant-like character was not worth their effort at all. Who were they? They were existences who had stepped into the saint realm. Even a king realm expert was just a weak weed in their eyes, let alone a young man in the reincarnation developing realm. Dao Kuan, your words are really hypocritical. In my opinion, I'm afraid you're not here to simply take back the saint treasures of your sect, right? At this time, a sneer sounded. Along with the voice, a thin old man wearing a feather crown and a purple gold robe appeared out of thin air. He looked haggard, and his eyes were like lightning. Although he looked thin, his power was like that of an overlord who controlled the world and overlooked the mountains and rivers. Saint Yu Ming of the immortal Pure Land. Then tell me, why did I come here? Dao Kuan said coldly. Yu Ming, with his hands behind his back, paced in the field and said indifferently, this man has 2 saint treasures in his hands. One is a pagoda made of divine iron of fate. The other is a 3-inch suet jade bottle. At the same time, he has a mysterious broken blade. If you're not interested, you'd better not get involved. All the saints had different expressions. Of course, they were also well aware of this. Dao Kuan spoke with an emotionless expression instead. An ordinary man is innocent, but his wealth arouses his wrath. This kid killed so many members of my heaven's pivot divine grounds, so taking some of the fortune in his possession as compensation is a matter of course. If you, Yu Ming, intend to stop me from taking revenge on that ant with just a few words, then you're gravely mistaken. Yu Ming sneered and remained silent. Everyone, it's already at a time like this, so why don't we speak frankly? Fong Lingsu's expression was indifferent. This kid must be killed. If he doesn't die, it'll be insufficient to wash away the humiliation our sex suffered. As for the saint treasures in this kid's possession, we'll rely on our own abilities to seize them. That's feasible. That's for the best. The other saints pondered briefly before they agreed. Meanwhile, Fong Lingsu looked towards the space at the side and said, "Fuya, how long are you going to remain silent for?" All the saints looked over as well. A wave of movement suddenly arose in that space, and then an emaciated figure swiftly appeared. The figure was completely blurry and extremely faint, and it seemed as if it didn't exist in the world. However, his aura was extremely shocking, and he didn't lose out to any of the saints present. This person was a saint of the vast Sea Taoist sect, and his Taoist name was Fuya. "I have no objections." Fuya's voice was cold, and it drifted between heaven and earth, causing everyone to tremble with fear. At this point, 6 saints had gathered. "But before that, I have a question," Fuya said. His voice fluctuated between east and west, and it was ethereal and sinister. "What if there are fellow Taoists from other orthodoxies who wish to join in as well? Then we'll treat them as our common enemies." Fong Lingsu's expression was indifferent. Although the others didn't speak, it was obvious that they had tacitly agreed. "All right, at this point, I no longer have any worries. We can begin." Fuya nodded. Swoosh! In an instant, the 6 saints all looked towards the star chest sea in the distance. The star fog above the star chest sea was illusory, and it seemed mysterious and terrifying. However, the restrictive power covering it naturally couldn't escape the eyes of the saints. Although they couldn't break the formation, it wouldn't be difficult for them to take back the saint treasure and kill an ant in the process. However, before they could make a move, a shout suddenly rang out. "To think that you're saints of the present age, but you want to snatch the saint treasure from the hands of a junior under the banner of revenge. How shameless! Don't you have any shame?" The 6 saints, Fong Lingsu, Miao Hua, Dao Kuan, Shuetu, Yu Ming, and Fuya frowned. They seemed to be somewhat surprised, and their gazes all looked towards the same place. There, a rugged, barbarian-like youth dressed in beast skin had appeared out of nowhere. "P.S. According to the previous agreement, it will start tomorrow. I've just recovered from my goldfish fever, and my body is a little weak. I'll release 4 chapters tomorrow. Then, if nothing unexpected happens, I'll release 5 chapters the day after tomorrow." Chapter 1106. The rugged young man was Alu. However, the sages were surprised to see that the one who had insulted them was a young man at the reincarnation developing state. Were there ants who were not afraid of death in this world? Moreover, they were slightly puzzled by the fact that they were actually unable to notice the traces of this young man at the first possible moment. This was unusual, but they quickly came to a realization, and their gazes descended simultaneously onto the dark iron rod in Alu's hand. It was a holy treasure. Previously, the reason why they were unable to detect it was because the aura of the saint artifact was too mysterious. Being stared at by a group of sages, Alu felt uncomfortable all over, but he still scolded. "What's wrong? Are you guys still coveting my treasure? Do you have any shame?" Boom! The pressure of a sage spread from Fong Lingsu's body and instantly confined Alu, making him feel like he was being crushed by a divine mountain. He almost knelt down. His face turned red, and his skin felt like it was about to explode. However, no matter how he struggled, he could not even speak. Just as he was about to kneel, the iron rod in his hand suddenly burst forth with a terrifying black light. With a rumble, it turned into a short, skinny, and dirty old Taoist. "Huh?" Fong Lingsu and the other sages narrowed their eyes. As soon as the old Taoist appeared, he rolled his eyes, and then he slapped Alu on the head and roared, "I told you not to cause trouble, you little bastard, but you didn't listen. Are you tired of living? Come with me." With that, he waved his sleeve, and a black light enveloped Alu. He turned around and left. At the same time, the scruffy old Taoist shouted, "Everyone continue with your work. It was just a misunderstanding. Just pretend that nothing happened." Before he finished speaking, the scruffy old Taoist had already disappeared. His speed was so fast that it left everyone dumbfounded. The power of a sage's will. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. Fong Lingsu frowned. He recognized that the scruffy old Taoist was formed by a wisp of will. Looks like he's not someone powerful. Otherwise, how could he have escaped so quickly? The other sages did not think much of it. The interlude passed quickly. However, just as they were about to attack, something unexpected happened. A comrade is approaching. Sage Dao Kuan frowned and looked into the depths of the mystic frost tundra. The other sages also noticed it. In their sea of consciousness, in the depths of the mystic frost glacier, there were many powerful auras appearing, distributed in different areas. Like them, they were all existences who had stepped into the saint realm. It's the fellow Taoists from the other sects of the four great worlds. Looks like the commotion this time was too great, and even they were drawn over. The bloody slaughter saint's face was cold, and his voice was cold. Fortunately, we arrived a step earlier. Otherwise, the sacred treasure that our sects lost here would have probably been taken away by someone else. Saint Miao Hua said faintly. Right at this moment, a deep and gentle voice resounded from extremely far away in the black frost ice field. Fellow Taoists, there's no need to be suspicious. We've only come to watch the battle and have absolutely no intention of interfering. This was a middle-aged man with a pair of gray wings on his back. He had a smile on his face and looked completely harmless. He stood in a world of ice and snow, thousands of kilometers away. He was a saint of the Wind Whisperer clan, and his name was Bai Qianren. That would be for the best. Fong Lingsu said coldly. It's fine to watch the battle, but if anyone has any other intentions, they should first consider whether they can withstand the rage of the six of us. Saint Yumming snorted coldly. Miao Hua, Dao Kuan, Bloody Slaughter Saint, Fu Ye, and the others had unfriendly expressions. The battlefield was silent for a moment. No sound resounded again, and no one approached. All of them stood extremely far away, as if they had indeed come to watch the battle. This caused Fong Lingsu and the other 5 sages to feel much more at ease. Let's move quickly and end the battle quickly. Fong Lingsu took a deep breath, and a terrifying sword intent surged around him. It tore through the void and spread towards the distant Star Chess Ocean. Rumble, the original silence on the Star Chess Ocean, was broken. Starlight surged, and a terrifying restriction rippled out. It covered the heavens and the earth, and it blocked the sword intent. Fong Lingsu seemed to have been prepared. He waved his sleeve, and the power of the saintly Wei law swept out, transforming into a violent rain of swords. The rain of swords seemed to cover the heavens and the earth as they whistled over. At almost the same time, the other sages made their move as well. Buzz, Saint Miao Hua tossed, and a dazzling golden rope soared up. It was like a majestic golden dragon, and it was wrapped in the halo of the saintly Wei as it surged into the ocean. Swoosh! Saint Dao Kuan reached out and formed a seal with his 5 fingers. Fiery light surged into the sky, and it displayed the terrifying might that could incinerate all things. Clang! Bloody Slaughter Saint slashed with his saber, and the void instantly fell into disorder and collapsed. A long crack was torn open, and it extended towards the depths of the Star Chess Ocean. At the same time, Saint Yumming and Saint Fu Ye made their moves. The weather changed, and sand and pebbles flew everywhere. This area was completely filled with the supreme and terrifying power of the saintly Wei. It revealed a horrifying scene that caused one to feel suffocated in despair just by looking at it from afar. The restriction power on the Star Chess Ocean was indeed terrifying. However, the 6 sages did not step foot into it, and they only wanted to retrieve the saintly treasure that was suppressed within and kill Lin Sun. This difficulty was indeed not a problem for them. Very soon, the power they exerted charged into the depths of the Star Chess Ocean, and it kept spreading. Lin Sun, who was meditating, was suddenly awakened by a dangerous aura, and he opened his eyes. Rumble, in front of the lone island where he was, the seawater was tumbling violently, setting off tens of thousands of waves and producing thunderous explosions. Sages. There are 6 of them. With the perception of the power of the heavenly cycle stars formation, the scene in front of the coast appeared clearly in Lin Sun's mind in an instant, and his expression turned cold. Previously, he had already predicted that killing the kings would definitely cause an unpredictable storm. However, he did not expect that in just a few days, a monstrous killing tribulation had already arrived. 6 sages have come together. They really think highly of me, Lin Sun muttered to himself, and his black eyes grew colder. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. His plan could not keep up with the changes. He had originally planned to lie dormant here and replenish his cultivation. Who would have thought that those ancient orthodoxies would not hesitate to send out sages to deal with him? Moreover, there were 6 of them. This was not just going too far. They were obviously going to kill him. Boom! A sword light swept out from the bottom of the sea, and it gave off boundless light, illuminating the universe. The heavenly sword. This sword had originally been suppressed and could not break free. However, at this moment, it was like a trapped dragon rising to the sky, and it swept towards the coast. Lin Sun knew that this was the sages of the heavenly sword sect taking action. He did not stop them, because he could not stop them at all. Whoosh soon, the Hall of Immortality also swept out like a divine mountain, flowing with bronze light. It tore through the void and followed closely behind the heavenly sword. There was no need to guess. This was the sages from the pure land of immortality. Lin Sun took a deep breath, and without any hesitation, he swept deeper into the star-chest sea. The power of the sages was too terrifying, far beyond the king realm. In the eyes of the king realm, the cultivators of the 5 major realms were like ants. In the eyes of the sages, all living beings were like ants. This was the difference. From the fact that they could collect the trapped saint treasures so quickly, it could be seen how terrifying the power of these sages was. Now, Lin Sun could only pin his hopes on the power of the heavenly cycle stars formation in the star-chest sea to protect himself. Not long after Lin Sun took action, the trapped saint treasures, such as the violet-green treasure umbrella, the heaven-suppressing ruler, the blood prison seal, and the golden jade archive, broke free one after another and were collected by the sages on the coast. The reason why they were so quick was actually very simple. These saint treasures originally belonged to their respective orthodoxies. The saint treasures were intelligent, and their auras would naturally be captured by the sages at the first instance. Then, they would work together to collect them, and it was naturally extremely easy. However, after collecting the saint treasures, the sages did not look happy at all. Instead, their expressions turned gloomy. This lad actually used the power of the star chassis's restriction formation to refine and suppress the saint treasures of our sects. This has caused the saint treasures to be damaged. Fong Lingsu was furious. He immediately noticed that the heaven-reaching sword was damaged. Although it was not serious, if he wanted to repair it, he would have to pay a great price. He killed our people and damaged our saint treasures. This lad has to pay a heavy price. The other sages also noticed that these saint treasures had suffered varying degrees of damage after being suppressed for only a few days. This made them feel pained, and their hearts were dripping blood. They could view all living beings as ants, but they could not disregard saint treasures. This was because in their hearts, saint treasures were undoubtedly more important. It concerned the long-term survival of orthodoxy in the world. How could they allow such treasures to be damaged? Young man, you can't escape. I'll give you a chance. Surrender obediently, and I'll give you a quick death later. Fong Lingsu let out a long roar and opened his eyes. In an instant, he locked onto Lin Sun, who was fleeing quickly in the depths of the star-chest sea. This was a humiliation. With the power of a sage, he could naturally suppress Lin Sun. But now, he wanted Lin Sun to take the initiative to capture him. That kind of contempt and high and mighty attitude was vividly reflected in a single sentence. Lin Sun's body stiffened. He felt a terrifying thought lock onto him. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get rid of it. It was as if there was a thorn on his back, like a maggot attached to his bones. This made his face change slightly. He completely realized the terror of a sage. He had never confronted a real sage before. He thought he had overestimated himself, but he did not expect that he had still underestimated such an existence. They were so far apart, and there was the heaven-reaching stars formation as a barrier, but he was still firmly locked onto by the other party's chi. This was undoubtedly terrifying. Boom! Lin Sun gritted his teeth and used the power of the heaven-reaching stars formation without hesitation. Suddenly, the sky cracked and countless stars appeared, pouring down silver starlight. On the surface of the sea, the starlight surged and the power of prohibition surged, bathing Lin Sun's figure in it. It became extremely bright, as if he had turned into a dominator. Hey, interesting. You can really use the power of prohibition in the sea. No wonder you dared to kill so many King Realm cultivators a few days ago. Fong Lingsu narrowed his eyes, but he did not panic. Instead, he was carefully looking at Lin Sun with an indifferent and calm expression. He had absolute confidence, as if he had found an interesting prey. Of course, for him, it was just interesting. A prey was just a prey after all. He was destined to be hunted. Chapter 11:07. Old B** starred. You're behaving like a B** star with the power of the Saint Realm. How dare you say such shameless words? Lin Sun's black eyes were cold, and his chest was burning with rage. He would not compromise, nor would he allow himself to be captured without putting up a fight. Bowing his head would only bring him greater humiliation and death. These old fellows had attacked without any regard for their dignity. If it did not kill him, how could they be satisfied? You have a sharp tongue. You're just a small ant. Do you think you're invincible just by borrowing the power of the restriction? You're still far from it. At this moment, the bloody slaughter saint could not wait any longer and made the first move. From a distance, he slapped Lin Sun like an elder lecturing an unfilial descendant. It was a slap with endless humiliation. Fellow cultivator, slow down. This small ant still has opportunities. Don't be in a hurry to kill him. Dao Kuan and Miao Hua hurriedly said. They seemed to be kind, but their intentions were actually more vicious. Boom! Lin Sun controlled the power of the restriction and resisted. In an instant, the starlight was like a tide, and all sorts of lights and waves surged, blocking the attack. Unexpectedly, the eyes of the saints lit up when they saw this scene. They said, this lad can really use the power of the star chassis restriction. Doesn't this mean that if we capture him, we can obtain the method to control the star chassis restriction? The star chassis was covered by the heavenly cycle stars formation. Since ancient times, no one had been able to break it. Even saints would encounter danger if they entered it rashly. However, if they could grasp the profoundness of the heavenly cycle stars formation, it would be equivalent to grasping a supreme restriction formation. The saints were tempted. The more they thought about it, the more delighted they became. They were well aware of the value of grasping such a supreme restriction formation. Kneel! Fong Lingsu snorted coldly. He extended his withered and old hand and pressed down on Lin Sun from a distance. It was like a divine mountain moving horizontally, trying to force Lin Sun to kneel on the ground. Scram! Lin Sun shouted. Endless starlight surged from the sea, steaming and rolling, covering the sky. There was a huge tremor, and there were continuous booms in front of Lin Sun. Terrifying powers collided with each other. If he was not under the protection of the restriction formation waves, he would definitely be pressed to the ground. Fellow Taoist Fong, you're so violent. What if you accidentally kill this ant? I don't wish for this child to die like this. Although his life is lowly, the good fortune he possesses is very precious. Saint Floating Tooth spoke faintly in the air. His figure was blurry and illusory, as if he didn't exist in this world, but his words were undoubtedly filled with disdain. Lin Sun was so angry that he couldn't help sneering. What kind of bullsh tea saint are they? I think they are just a bunch of old beasts who should be hacked into pieces. Ants will always be ants. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The group of sages remained indifferent and unmoved. Boom! Saint Yumming made his move. He pressed his fingers together and pointed in the air. All of a sudden, a wisp of finger energy was condensed and filled with the power of the divine way. It rushed towards Lin Sun's eyebrows like a finger piercing through the sky. Rumble! A terrifying scene occurred. The star chessie's restriction power was unable to withstand it and was easily broken by the finger force. Lin Sun didn't hesitate and took out the wordless pagoda to block in front of him. The body of the pagoda flowed with golden brilliance, looking magnificent and brilliant. In the end, although the finger force was blocked, Lin Sun suffered from the impact. The qi and blood in his body churned, and he almost coughed up blood. He sighed in his heart. He could only borrow less than 1,000th of the heavenly cycle star's formation's power at most. It was destined that he couldn't fight against the power of 6 sages. Moreover, these sages were extremely cunning. They didn't enter the star chess sea at all. As such, even if Lin Sun wanted to use the formation to counterattack, he wouldn't be able to do so. At the end of the day, he had overestimated the bottom line of those ancient orthodoxies. As a result, he made a wrong judgment. He didn't expect that they would send out 6 sages just to deal with him. "It's that pagoda." The eyes of the sages on the coast lit up. "Oh, impressive. It is indeed made of the divine metal of fortune. Even in ancient times, it would be a top-notch treasure. Its value is immeasurable. Good. This trip will be worthwhile." Fong Lingsu and the others were pleasantly surprised. They ignored Lin Sun and focused all their attention on the treasures and fortunes in Lin Sun's hands. This was undoubtedly a great contempt. In the eyes of the sages, even though Lin Sun had become the first on the list of minor giants, he was far less important than the treasures and fortunes in Lin Sun's hands. "Don't delay any further. Let's attack together and suppress this lad." Saint Miao Hua's eyes were burning. He couldn't wait any longer. He was afraid that a long delay would lead to trouble. He wanted to end Lin Sun's life immediately. Boom! In that instant, all the sages took action. Across the vast star chess sea, huge hands fell down and pressed Lin Sun down. The power of the heavenly cycle stars formation roared. Terrifying waves of starlight emerged, splitting the void and resisting the huge hands. Puff! In just an instant, Lin Sun was shaken to the point where he coughed up blood. His body almost exploded on the spot. Even though the heavenly cycle stars formation was extraordinary, it couldn't withstand the attacks of 6 sages. Even with the defense of the wordless pagoda, Lin Sun was still heavily injured. Swish! Lin Sun turned into a stream of light and rushed toward the depths of the star chess sea. However, his struggle was destined to be futile. In just the blink of an eye, his path forward was cut off, leaving Lin Sun with no way to retreat. On the coast, the sages were very calm. Their expressions were indifferent. They weren't afraid that Lin Sun would escape at all because they had already locked onto him. Even further away, the experts who were watching the battle in the dark side. The disparity in strength was too great. Demon God Lin was destined to be in trouble. Once the sages appeared, who in the entire ancient desolation region could compete with them. If he doesn't rise, he's destined to only be brilliant for a while and then fall, someone said to himself. It's a pity. With this lad's aptitude, he's destined to have an extraordinary cultivation path if he can wait for the great era to come. However, he's going to die here. Heaven is jealous of his talent, someone sighed. In this world where there are many orthodoxies, it's difficult to rise alone like this, someone sighed. Alu was not taken away by the slovenly old Taoist. Instead, he was hiding in the dark. When he saw this scene, he was immediately enraged and shouted, "Old bastard, that's my big brother. Are you going to save him or not?" The sloppy old man slapped Alu on the head and said, "Acknowledge him as your big brother? Did you get my permission? Good for nothing. Stop glaring at me. Let me tell you, just watch the show this time." Alu was enraged like a raging bull, and he didn't listen to advice at all. However, no matter how he struggled, he was unable to take a single step forward. He was restrained there and couldn't even speak a single word. It was obvious that the slovenly old Taoist was well aware of the power of Alu's mouth. He immediately sealed Alu's mouth. What's going on? According to my deduction, the undying forbidden land behind the sea of stars shouldn't just watch as this child is killed. Moreover, this child is able to use the great heavenly cycle star formation, so it should be related to that old madman from back then. Why hasn't the situation turned for the better yet? The sloppy old Taoist frowned, and he quickly deduced in his heart. The current situation was so dangerous that even he could not understand it. Boom! The battle was still going on. A huge hand came pressing down from the sky. It was Saint Miaohua. His snow-white palm was surrounded by the divine flame of heaven, and he sent Lin Sun flying, coughing up blood. Even ants want to live. Young man, why struggle so hard? I'm not afraid to tell you that if we wanted to kill you, we wouldn't have to put in so much effort. The reason for this is nothing more than to make you bow your head and hand over your good fortune to atone for your sins. Although Saint Miaohua was beautiful and dignified, she was more ruthless and arrogant than the other saints. Her words were full of contempt, and she was trampling on Lin Sun's dignity. Suppress! Saint Dao Kuan shouted, and he slapped down with his palm. The restrictive force was destroyed, and the wordless pagoda was shaken back. When Lin Sun was about to be completely suppressed, a suet jade bottle suddenly appeared in his palm, and the mouth of the bottle spewed out blazing rays of light. Boom! Like a landslide and a tsunami, the void was in disorder in an instant. But with this blow, Lin Sun managed to defeat the suppression in a dangerous way, and also made Saint Dao Kuan suffer a great impact, causing his body to shake violently. What? Everyone was taken aback. This change was very sudden. How could an ant have the ability to fight back against a saint? But immediately, the eyes of the 6 saints became brighter and more fiery. It's that suet jade bottle. What a miraculous holy treasure. Looking at it from afar, the power contained in this bottle is so magical that it even makes my heart tremble. They all saw that Lin Sun's previous blow came from the suet jade bottle in his hand. This was undoubtedly also a holy treasure. Everyone, I don't want anything else, just this suet jade bottle. Fong Lingsu's voice was filled with a trace of rare excitement. Everyone was able to discern that this bottle was extremely miraculous and priceless. Relying on this treasure to allow an ant to escape danger and survive was absolutely inconceivable. Humph! Let's rely on our own means. As he spoke, Saint Yumming had already attacked, and the strength was obviously more terrible than before. At the same time, the others also attacked, and no one dared to be careless. Some people suppressed Lin Sun, try to learn the mystery of the cosmic stars formation from him. Some people went to rob the wordless pagoda, and some people were fighting for the great way immeasurable bottle. This put Lin Sun in a life and death situation. The power of one saint was already so horrible that he couldn't resist it, let alone the suppression of 6 saints. Bang! Lin Sun was seriously injured. His body was sent flying, and his blood dyed his body red. His bones were broken, and his skin was full of cracks. This kind of injury was extremely serious. Seeing this, the overmatches who were watching the battle in secret all became nervous. They realized that this battle without suspense was about to come to an end. No matter how outstanding Demon Lin was, he was as vulnerable as an ant under the power of the saints. He was destined to be killed, and the price he had to pay for this was the treasures and good fortune he had. To everyone's surprise, Lin Sun still refused to bow his head even when he was seriously injured and dying. He was bathed in blood, and his black eyes were surging with endless flames of anger. He said intermittently in a hoarse voice, "You old bastards, today's humiliation, I, Lin Sun, will return it to you 10 times in the future." His voice, full of endless hatred, shook the world. There was a moment of silence, and then the 6 saints all sneered. Fong Lingsu even said indifferently, "You have no way to live. How can you have a chance to take revenge in the future? Let me tell you, no matter who comes today, no one is bound to be able to save you." Really, an ethereal whisper, not loud, suddenly resounded in all directions, and stirred the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In the void, there were divine rainbows and auspicious lights descending at an unknown time. P.S. The woman in the heaven accessing place is going to take action. Please come here and ignite the war. Chapter 1108. Strands of divine radiance and auspicious light had suddenly descended from the sky, and they scattered through space and illuminated the world. At this moment, everyone on the coast felt an inexplicable pressure. The eyelids of Fong Ling Su, Dao Kuan, Miao Hua, Xue Tu, Yu Ming, and Fuya twitched as they squinted their eyes. As saints, they were naturally able to sense that something strange was happening in an instant. There were many saints among those who were watching the battle in secret. At this moment, they were all shocked and looked at the star chest sea. The world seemed to be silent at this moment. Who's playing tricks here? Fong Ling Su shouted with a murderous look on his face. Haha, which friend wants to intervene in this matter? Do you think we don't exist? Or do you want to fight against us for the good fortune in Lin Sun's hands? Dao Kuan, Miao Hua, and the others' faces turned cold. They thought it was the saints of other orthodoxies who came to intervene in this matter, which annoyed them. In the sky, strands of divine radiance were like divine chains of order. They were crystalline, translucent, resplendent, and magnificent, and they converged ceaselessly in the sky. The atmosphere between heaven and earth became more and more oppressive, making it hard for people to breathe. Humph! I don't care who you are. Whoever dares to stop me today, I'll kill him, Xue Tu said coldly. As a saint, he stood at the top of the world and could do whatever he wanted. Once he had the intention to kill, almost no one could stop him. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. A terrifying bloody storm appeared out of thin air, emitting the sound of ghosts crying and gods howling. It shrouded Lin Sun like the gate to hell. Chi! At this moment, a divine rainbow that looked like a chain of order swept over. It was too fast. It penetrated the bloody storm in an instant, then broke the void and arrived in front of Xue Tu. Xue Tu roared. As he opened his mouth, bloody ripples gathered, filled with the power of the saint. It was a kind of sound wave secret method that could shatter the space and the universe. However, this was useless. The rainbow arrived and pierced through the bloody ripples. Then, it landed on the blood-slaughtering saint. Bang! With a terrible roar, Xue Tu flew out and smashed into the mountains in the distance, crushing countless rocks and ice. Everyone was stunned and looked into the distance. Smoke and dust rose into the sky, accompanied by Xue Tu's painful scream. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The mountain ridge was smashed apart. A saint was actually sent flying with a single strike. He crashed into a large mountain range, causing the earth to crack and the void to collapse. This was undoubtedly too terrifying. The sound of people gasping could be heard. What did I just see? A high and mighty saint who can look down on the world has been sent flying? Some people still didn't believe it, their mind a bit muddled. The experts watching in secret felt their mouths go dry, feeling that this was inconceivable. This type of scene was just too shocking. In the depths of the star chest sea, Lin Sun stood bathed in blood. He had long black hair and coal-black eyes. He did not feel surprised and was very calm. Boom! Terrifying power of the divine path surged from Fong Ling Su and the others, shaking the universe. The previous scene caused their hearts to tremble, and they realized that it was extremely likely that an extremely powerful opponent had arrived. They did not dare to be negligent anymore. May I ask which fellow Taoist has graced us with your presence? Fong Ling Su's voice rumbled through the heavens and the earth. An unparalleled sword intent surged out from his body, intimidating everyone and shaking the stars. When they were dealing with Lin Sun just now, they did not use their true strength at all. They were worried that they would accidentally kill Lin Sun and lose the opportunity. But now, when they realized that a formidable enemy had arrived, they were all awestruck and began to show the true power of the Saint Realm. No matter who he is, I want him dead. Boom! In the mountains far away, a huge figure stood up, shaking off the mountains that were pressing down on him. He stood tall, his eyes like two scarlet blood moons, extremely terrifying. It was the bloody butcher saint who had been defeated earlier. However, he had become completely different at this moment. With a monstrous killing intent, he strode over, shaking the heavens and the earth violently and causing the void to collapse inch by inch. The experts watching in secret were all awestruck and retreated one after another. Some of the weaker ones were trembling under the pressure of this astonishing saint might, almost kneeling on the ground. This was a kind of uncontrollable reverence that originated from instinct. The might of a saint could intimidate the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers. Once cultivators below the saint realm encountered him, they would not be able to resist at all and would be completely intimidated. However, such a high and mighty saint had been sent flying with a single blow just now. It was hard to believe just thinking about it. Do you dare to show yourself and fight? The bloody butcher saint was enraged, his voice reverberating in all directions. It was as if there was rolling thunder in the sky, shattering the clouds. Some people screamed and fell to the ground while covering their ears. Some people were so shaken that they bled from their orifices and saw stars. This level of saint might was truly terrifying. Countless years have passed, and the world has indeed changed. You are just a group of false saints, yet you dare to be so lawless. I'm truly surprised. A cold and eerie sigh resounded between the heavens and the earth. Auspicious rays of light descended from the sky and intersected with each other. A graceful and hazy figure gradually gathered and was about to appear. False saints. Many people at the scene shuddered. Who dare to say such words and call Fong Ling Su and the others false saints? Yet, her words were spoken in such a matter-of-fact manner. Arrogant. The Saint Tao is like the heavens. How dare you make thoughtless remarks? Fong Ling Su's expression was cold. The entire void was filled with terrifying saint might. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, rocks exploded, the earth cracked, and everything showed signs of destruction. The expressions of the other saints were also unkind. They had stepped into the saint plane and were definitely not nobodies. They had long surpassed the path of immortality and stepped onto the path of holiness. However, the tone of the voice just now was filled with disdain. There really is a turning point? Olby asterisk starred. Do you know what a false saint is? In the dark, Alu was stunned and opened his eyes wide. With a slap, he suffered another slap on his head. The sloppy old priest scolded, "Stop talking nonsense and watch the show." As he spoke, he was not calm. He seemed to have noticed something and also found it hard to believe. Boom! In the void above the star-chest sea, there was a sudden rumble, an auspicious light, and rain poured down. It was as if they were worshiping the descent of a supreme god. The phenomenon was brilliant. In the end, the graceful and hazy figure completely condensed. She gave off a holy and transcendent aura that soared into the sky. She stood there casually, but she gave off an aura that looked down on the heavens and earth, making all living things in the world bow down to her. This was undoubtedly a shocking and terrifying phenomenon. What did it mean to be above all living things and stand proudly above the heavens? That was it. The sages present were all people who had seen great things, but when they saw this figure, they could not help but be shocked and feel an indescribable pressure. Who was this person? Why had they not seen her in the entire ancient desolation region? It was not only Fong Ling Su and the other 5 sages. At that moment, the sages in the dark were also shocked and bewildered. That aura was extremely holy and supreme, causing them to feel a heavy pressure. Boom! The heavens and earth shook, as if they were trembling because of the appearance of the graceful figure. All directions were suppressed. "Thank you, Senior." Lin Sun bowed, feeling rather excited. Back then, the mysterious woman had given him 3 chances to ask for help. This was already the 2nd time. If he had not been forced into a corner, he would definitely not have asked for help. "You have already surprised me by being able to contend for so long with your own strength. Now, you could just watch the battle from the side." The woman's voice was chilly while her body seemed to be coiled with numerous clear and dazzling divine chains of order. There was a rain of ascension that rained down, blazing divine radiance enshrouded, and all sorts of flowing lights that were boundlessly dazzling. It caused others to be utterly unable to see her appearance clearly. "Humph, you're too arrogant. What do you think the six of us are to you?" Fong Lingsu's voice was sonorous. The sword essence around him was surging, reflecting the spectacle of thousands of swords flying into the sky. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. From what the mysterious woman said, she was actually related to Lin Sun, the little bastard, and was not here to snatch the opportunity. This was unexpected. "How about treating us like bastards?" From afar, the woman's voice was cold and casual. One sentence shocked everyone. To treat the six sages as bastards, this was too scary. Fong Lingsu and the others were furious. Before, they were about to succeed, but because of the appearance of this woman, they failed. They were already annoyed. Now that they were being humiliated like this, who could tolerate it anymore? "Let's do it," Shui Tu shouted. The saber in his hand soared into the sky, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. It was as if the door to hell had been opened, and he slashed over. The power of a saint is like the sky, and it cannot be violated. "Fellow cultivator, you have crossed the line." At the same time, Miao Hua, Yu Ming, Fu Ye, and the other sages attacked together. In an instant, the world was intertwined with the light of the way, and the scene was extremely shocking. The six sages attacked together, using the true power of the saint to suppress and kill the mysterious woman. This scene was too terrifying. Among the experts watching the battle in secret, only the sages could withstand the pressure released by such a battle. The eyes of the others were stinging, and they were unable to observe it all. Swoosh! At the same time, on the star chest sea, the woman also took action. Crystalline and divine rays of order floated up into appearance around her, and they interweaved together and coiled around her. It was like a world had appeared, and numerous terrifying scenes floated within them. The sun rose and set, the passage of time, the cycle of the universe changing. Vaguely, there were even the sounds of gods and Buddhas chanting, and the sounds of ancestors offering sacrifices rumbled out, as if they were worshipping. Bang! She pressed her hand lightly, and Fong Lingsu's sword chi shattered in midair, turning into a rain of light and dissipating. At the same time, a sparkling divine rainbow of order shot out and wrapped around the blood-slaughtering saint's saber. With a crack, the saber was broken. The blood-slaughtering saint screamed. His body swayed, and he almost coughed up blood. On the other side, Saint Dao Kun formed seals with his fingers and slapped the divine rainbow of order that was charging at him. Poof! In the end, his palm was penetrated in an instant, and even his arm was pierced. His flesh exploded, and his entire right arm was destroyed. This scene shocked everyone. Whoosh! The golden rope from Saint Miao Hua's hand was like a giant golden dragon, and it surged with terrifying Saint Dao laws. It took this opportunity to approach the woman. However, the woman stretched out her hand and pinched lightly with her fingers, as if she was picking up a flower petal. She firmly clamped the golden rope, and it was as if she had hit the weak spot of a snake. Following that, the golden ropes exploded inch by inch amidst a series of explosions. A golden rain of light dyed the sky golden. It caused the woman's graceful figure to seem like a supreme god. Chapter 1109. Saint Miao Hua screamed. Her treasure was destroyed, causing her to bleed. The sages who were watching the battle in the dark widened their eyes, and their hearts trembled. Boom! Saint Floating Tooth executed a type of soul secret technique that was shapeless and immaterial, and it was extremely bizarre. Once struck by it, even a saint would suffer a heavy injury. However, before this power could even get close, the mysterious woman's eyes suddenly shot out a pair of symbols that looked like they were formed by order and destroyed the attack. Puff! Saint Floating coughed up blood, and his figure wriggled in the void. At the same time, with a clang, a bronze bell was slapped away. Saint Yumming staggered and took a few steps back. Everyone was dead silent. On the star-chess ocean, a graceful and hazy figure's clothes fluttered in the wind. This was the mysterious woman in the heaven-reaching secret realm. As soon as she made a move, she displayed her peerless elegance. In the blink of an eye, she broke through the encirclement of the sages and injured them. So many sages attacked, but they couldn't even shake her. Who was that woman? In the dark, countless pairs of eyes were filled with undisguised shock. It was only the first exchange of blows, yet such a devastating scene had appeared. Who wouldn't be shocked and fearful? Who was she? In the distance, the woman stood proudly in the void, as if she was aloof from the world. She was as bright as the moon. Rays of divine rainbows were like divine chains of order that circled around her body, creating a grand and mysterious phenomenon. Every ray of divine rainbows was like the order of the Great Path. It was as if they could evolve into a world that contained boundless mysteries. Vaguely, there was the sound of gods and Buddhas praising her and all living beings worshiping her. Merely this supreme scene was capable of shocking the ages and astounding the universe. On the coast, Fong Ling Su and the other sages had uncertain expressions. Who were they? They were the famous sages who stood at the peak of cultivation in the ancient Desolation region. Yet, they suffered such a setback and were injured in the first exchange. For people like them, this was unprecedented. It was a humiliation that they hadn't experienced in a long time. Because they hadn't been injured in a long time. The world has truly declined. Even if it is a false saint, the difference between them and those fellas from the ancient times is too great. The woman's voice was clear and cold. She released a faint sigh, as if she was a bit melancholic. Who are you, fellow Taoist? How dare you speak such big words? Fong Ling Su's face was gloomy and his heart was filled with anger. Being called a fake saint made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Who am I? The woman muttered to herself. After a while, she said, You're not qualified to know. In one sentence, he looked down on the world. Those were 6 saints, but they didn't even have the right to know her name. What kind of pride and conceit was this? The experts who were secretly watching the battle almost thought they had heard wrong. Ha ha ha, arrogant. Do you think we can't do anything to you? Shui Tu laughed loudly. His eyes were like blood moons and were awe-inspiring. Everyone, it's time to use your true trump card. Otherwise, I'm afraid others will think that we're easy to bully. The woman's voice was cold as she said, So what if I bully you? No matter who comes here today, it will be difficult for them to leave this place. Haha, what do you think this is? No one has ever dared to act against us sex like this. Even someone as powerful as you will fall if you try to defy the heavens. Fong Ling Su's words were like swords, clanging and overflowing with killing intent. If these are your last words, then there's no need to waste any more time. Let's end this. The woman was very calm, but the meaning in her words was chilling. Was she going to kill a saint? Even Lin Sun was shocked. He had asked for help from the mysterious woman just to escape. After all, those were 6 saints. They were extremely terrifying and stood at the top of the world. Who could kill them? But now, the mysterious woman showed such a domineering attitude and looked down on the saints. How could Lin Sun remain calm? Only then did he realize that he had underestimated the power of this mysterious woman from the beginning. Kill. Saint Yumming was very straightforward. He suddenly took out the longevity hall. In an instant, the bronze hall exploded with unprecedented power. As it swept across the sky, it caused the sky to collapse and the surroundings to shake. Countless rocks and plants were instantly turned into powder. The scene was extremely terrifying. The longevity hall was obviously much more powerful than when it was used by the old monster of the King Realm. Only a saint might be able to fully activate the true power of such a sacred treasure. Boom! The longevity hall glowed and the earth cracked. Smoke and dust swept into the sky, dispersing the clouds and moving across the star-chess ocean towards the mysterious woman. The attack was obviously many times more powerful than before. One must know that the heavenly cycle stars formation could be set up in the star-chess ocean. But now, it was almost unable to stop the treasure. The Longevity Hall of the Pure Land of Longevity. It's a pity that its owner was a hero and overlord in ancient times. But now he has fallen to the point where he is controlled by a fake saint. A cold voice drifted in the air. The mysterious woman stretched out her hand and clapped lightly. Dong! The mountainous Longevity Hall seemed to have been struck by lightning. It shook violently and buzzed. Its entire body released chaotic energy, and there was even auspicious light surging. Many mysterious diagrams appeared on the surface of the ancient bronze palace. There were plants, insects, fish, immortal birds, divine beasts, the sun, moon, and stars, and others. It displayed an extraordinary might that was completely different from before. But no matter how powerful it was buzzing and shaking from the slap. She used her hand to hit the sacred treasure. The sound of the impact shocked the saints in the dark. They were dumbfounded and realized how terrifying this mysterious woman was. Everyone, when are you going to make your move? Saint Yumming roared. He was also shocked. This was the Longevity Hall, the treasure of the pure land of longevity. If it was used, it would at least multiply his battle prowess. But now, it was still hit by the mysterious woman with a raise of her hand. Clang! The heaven-connecting sword swept out. Fong Lingsu seemed to have turned into a real, invincible sword saint. His sword will surged, stirring up the wind and clouds as he attacked. Almost at the same time, Miao Hua took out the heaven-suppressing seal, Dao Kuan took out the purple-green treasured umbrella, Shui Tu took out the blood prison seal, and Fuya took out the golden jade archive. Rumble. 6 sacred treasures and 6 saints attacked with all their might. A sacred battle had begun and completely erupted. In an instant, the sky fell and the earth cracked. In the void, there were signs of collapse and destruction everywhere. Dazzling divine light of the divine path was everywhere. The scene was extremely shocking. This was indeed a battle between the gods in the truest sense of the word. It was boundlessly brilliant, and it was sufficient to shake the world and shake the world. Heavens, retreat. In the dark, the experts watching the battle changed their expressions immediately and retreated. The area within a radius of 10,000 li was filled with a terrifying saint aura. Once affected, even a saint would be in a difficult situation. As for those below the saint level, there was absolutely no chance of survival. Fortunately, this was in the Star Chest Sea of Forbidden Ground. If it happened in the outside world, it would definitely cause immeasurable destruction and disaster. Rumble. The saints attacked. They no longer held back and used the strongest magical abilities they had in their lives. Near the Star Chest Sea, the sky and earth were turned upside down. The seawater flowed, showing a scene of great destruction. If not for the heavenly cycle star formation, this place would have been destroyed. I've been silent for too long. No one knows who I am. The mysterious woman seemed to be unfazed. She took a step forward, and the stars moved. Thousands of divine chains of order swept out and bound the Longevity Hall, freezing it in the void. Boom! At the same time, she raised her hand, and another divine rainbow swept out. It was crystal clear and arrived before Shui Tu Saint again. Suppress! Shui Tu Saint roared. The blood prison seal howled and turned into a crimson purgatory. It covered the sky and earth as if it was going to refine the universe. However, the divine rainbow was extremely sharp and terrifying. It seemed to be able to break through everything. It rushed into the crimson purgatory and pierced through everything in its way. Rumble. Before the divine rainbow, the crimson purgatory was torn apart like a painting. Then, the divine rainbow swept out like a divine chain and bound the blood prison seal. At the end of the divine rainbow, there was a sharp battle spear that pierced through Shui Tu Saint's body and pinned him in the air. It was too fast. Everything happened too quickly. The battle had just started. Even someone as powerful as Shui Tu Saint's saint-level cultivation was like a piece of paper. His protective power was penetrated, and he was pinned in the void like a fly pinned to a wall. He could not move at all. Only his lips let out an extremely shrill cry of pain. This shocked everyone. It was too sudden. Whoosh! Another divine rainbow chain flashed out. It was crystalline, translucent, and flowed with a divine glow as it charged into space. Suddenly, it restrained the heaven suppression ruler that descended from the sky. Whoosh! At the same time, the mysterious woman's figure disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already before Saint Miaohua. She raised her hand and pressed down lightly. Miaohua didn't even have time to dodge. His entire body was forced to kneel on the ground. Every inch of his bones and tendons exploded, and he was limp like mud. However, at this moment, the amethyst jeweled rainbow umbrella, the golden jade archive, and the through heaven sword arrived. The mysterious woman had nowhere to hide. However, she was still not flustered. She seemed unusually calm and collected. Only tens of thousands of divine rainbows spread out around her. They danced like divine chains of order, and they flowed with a power that terrified even the heavens and earth. Bang! The amethyst, jeweled rainbow umbrella wailed and was firmly imprisoned. Clang, clang, clang. The through heaven sword slashed crazily. Every strike was powerful enough to cut down the sun, moon, and stars. However, it couldn't damage the divine rainbows at all. There were only sounds of collisions and splashes of light. In the end, the through heaven sword was imprisoned as well, and it wailed incessantly. The strangest thing was the golden jade archive. It suddenly transformed into a golden mist. It passed through the obstruction of the tens of thousands of divine rainbows and enveloped the mysterious woman. So it's this treasure. It actually still exists in the world. A trace of surprise appeared in the mysterious woman's eyes. After that, she let out a strange cry that sounded like the cry of a phoenix. Instantly, the golden mist stopped moving. In the blink of an eye, it actually transformed into a dazzling and strange divine bird. It spread its wings in the sky while surging golden light flowed out from its body. It dyed the heavens and the earth golden. The mysterious woman stretched out her hand. The golden divine bird instantly stood up obediently and let out a joyful cry. This incomparably miraculous scene shocked everyone present. P.S. The fourth update is here. I can tell everyone that this climax isn't so simple. The mysterious woman has finally made an appearance. So how could she leave so hastily? Besides that, I'll break the fifth update tomorrow. The time will be the same as before. The first update will be released at midnight, and the goldfish will wait for the first update after eating. Chapter 1110. The Bloody Slaughtering Saint, who had dominated the ancient Desolation realm for thousands of years and controlled the blood prison seal, still had his body pierced through. He was pinned in the air like a fly. The ruthless and decisive Saint Miaohua, a female saint, didn't even have time to react before she was suppressed and fell to the ground. Other than that, the immortal hull, the heavenly sword, the purple-green treasured umbrella, and the heaven-suppressing ruler were all sealed the moment they revealed their boundless divine might. These scenes were like viewing flowers on horseback, yet they really happened in the blink of an eye. So how could they not be shocked? How could they not be shocked? The saints who were watching the battle from afar gasped. Their hearts trembled and their expressions changed. This was indeed inconceivable and shocking. All of them were saints that stood proudly at the peak of the world. They presided over an area and received the worship of all living beings. After experiencing the passage of time, they'd experienced the tempering of countless battles, and they were absolutely worthy of being overlords of the world. However, in front of the mysterious woman, it was extremely pathetic. Not long after the battle broke out, the saints were crushed like a hot knife through butter. On the other hand, from the beginning until the end, the mysterious woman hadn't been injured, nor had she retreated. Her movements were casual, yet they revealed a supreme might that caused others to feel horrified. Her clothes fluttered as she stood there by herself. The divine rays of light around her were like divine chains of order that coiled around her, illuminated the world, and was peerlessly otherworldly. At the center of her palm, a golden immortal bird was combing its wings and letting out clear cries of joy. Its body flowed with a golden sheen, and it caused the mysterious woman to seem dreamlike. Impossible. That's the true spirit jade archive of my vast Sea Dao sect. Why would it submit to you? In the distance, Saint Floating Tooth's face was gloomy and filled with disbelief. Didn't Song Mingzi tell you who forged this treasure? The mysterious woman's voice was chilly, ethereal, and indistinct. Song Mingzi, he was the founder of the Azure Sea Dao sect and a mighty figure in the ancient era. His name could be said to have shaken the world. How could Fuya not know Song Mingzi, a saint who came from the vast Sea Dao sect? It was precisely because he knew that he was apprehensive. This woman, who exactly is she? She seemed to know some secrets that no one else knew. The other sages were also bewildered. Who exactly was this woman who dared to mention Song Mingzi so casually? What are you talking about? Kill her. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. In the distance, Fong Lingsu shouted. Boom! The Connect Heaven sword shone and actually broke free from the restraints of the divine rainbow. It slashed towards the mysterious woman. Kill. Fui also made his move. He couldn't allow the true spirit jade archive to be stolen. False saints are false saints in the end. No matter if it's the ancient times or the current era, they're destined to be different from true saints. It's a pity that you all still refuse to realize your errors. The mysterious woman tossed the golden flying beast away with her fair hand, and then she swiftly turned around. Her slender and graceful figure seemed to have instantly filled the world, and she'd become boundlessly tall. Whoosh! A divine rainbow shot out and bound the heaven-piercing sword again. The mysterious woman used the divine rainbow as a guide to guide the heavenly sword sect. She swung the heavenly sword sect's treasure, and the sword light flashed, sweeping in all directions. Puff! Fong Lingsu lost an arm. This shocked him so much that his soul almost flew out of his body. Who would have thought that the sacred treasure of his sect would be used in such a way and almost cost him his life? Rumble. The Immortal Hall was also freed. It was controlled by Saint Yumming to attack through the sky. The Immortal Hall emitted a bronze divine radiance that transformed into waves of strange energy. Everywhere it passed, chaotic chi pervaded the air, and it was incomparably majestic and terrifying. Bang! Rays of divine rainbow shot out from the mysterious woman's body, and they were sparkling and brilliant like the burning sun. They covered the sky and covered the earth as they ruthlessly whipped the Immortal Hall. The Immortal Hall, which was as large as a mountain, was directly whipped away. It smashed through the void and emitted a deafening rumble. Saint Yumming suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and cried out in pain. He'd suffered a backlash. Kill! At the same time, Fuya also attacked. His figure was blurry, as if it was void. He was unbelievably fast, and he'd already arrived behind the mysterious woman. Unfortunately, this was destined to be futile. A divine rainbow had unknowingly swept across the sky, and it wrapped around his waist, firmly confining him there. His palm was only a foot away from pressing on the mysterious woman's back, but it was this little bit of distance that he couldn't reach, no matter how hard he tried. Break for me! Fuya roared angrily. His saintly might was terrifying, but no matter how much strength he used, the divine rainbow was unshakable. Instead, his body was being wrapped tighter and tighter. Kacha! Then, Fuya's bones and tendons were broken, and sound of explosions could be heard. Blood spurted out of his mouth and nose, and he screamed miserably. A saint actually seemed so powerless at this moment. From the beginning to the end, the mysterious woman didn't even turn around, as if she didn't know that Fuya was suffering endless pain behind her. In the distance, the saints who were watching the battle felt their hearts go cold. They realized that this woman was very likely a great saint. No, she was very likely a saint king. Otherwise, how could she defeat 6 saints with just a wave of her hand? Her casual and relaxed appearance was enough to frighten any saint realm cultivator. Whoosh! At this moment, Fong Lingsu chose to escape without hesitation. He couldn't beat her at all. The opponent's power was completely at a level of absolute suppression. Even a Saint Treasure couldn't shake her, so how could he fight? When he thought about how he'd come here with such a large force, only to be defeated so miserably. Fong Ling-su felt like crying. Who said that saints were fearless? They just hadn't encountered an existence that was stronger than them. Just like Fong Ling-su at this moment, he didn't have the arrogance and conceit he had before, and he didn't have the strength of a saint realm cultivator at all. Instead, he was panicking like a stray dog. You can't beat her, so you want to escape? You really have no backbone. When a mysterious woman spoke, every single word was like the mantra of the Grand Tao, and every single word seemed to be covered in a layer of energy. When she finished speaking, this expanse of the heavens and the earth seemed to have transformed into a cage of the Grand Tao. Bang! Fong Ling-su, who just teleported to escape, was still halfway when the space exploded, causing his body to fall out in a sorry state. On the other hand, Saint Yu-ming, who'd originally intended to flee when he saw Fong Ling-su flee, tried to teleport, but he noticed to his shock that the energy of space in this expanse of the heavens and the earth was completely sealed. Instantly, Fong Ling-su and Yu-ming's faces turned ashen. At this moment, Shuetu was nailed in the sky, Miaohua was limp like mud, Fuyu was trapped by the waist, Fong Ling-su's right arm was severed, and Yu-ming had nowhere to run. Everything happened in almost an instant. From the beginning to the end, the mysterious woman didn't exert any shocking power. She was just dealing with every move casually and calmly, which made her seem even more unfathomable and peerless. As for Dao Kuan, he stood there in a daze. He didn't attack, nor did he flee. He was dumbstruck like a clay statue, and his mind was awed. The scenes that happened before were too shocking. Even as a saint, Dao Kuan could only feel an unprecedented fear. He hadn't felt this kind of fear for a long time, and the saints who were watching the battle from afar felt cold all over at this moment. Previously, they all thought that Lin Sun would definitely die. After all, it was 6 saints attacking, so who could compete with them? But the appearance of the mysterious woman turned everything around. She looked down upon the saints as if they were nothing, and she was unstoppable and invincible as she swept through the battlefield. Her supreme bearing was simply like that of a god. Who was she? This doubt arose in everyone's mind once again, and every time it brought them endless shock and terror. In the distance, Lin Sun's blood boiled as he watched. He'd seen all the scenes of the previous battle, and his heart was churning. What did it mean to suppress all saints? That was it. The extraordinary bearing of the mysterious woman made Lin Sun yearn for it. When could he also possess such power? If that day really came, who in the ancient desolation dared to treat him like before? Power. Lin Sun repeated these 2 words in his heart, and his black eyes were firm and bright. He knew that as long as he stuck to the path of cultivation and kept going, sooner or later, he would also be able to stand above the world and look down upon all the heroes like this. The battlefield was silent, and the battle had come to an end. Everyone knew that if they continued to fight, the result would be doomed. Fong Ling-su and other saints looked gloomy. For the first time, they found that a young man whom they regarded as a nonentity had caused such great trouble, which could be called a great disaster. But it was too late to say anything now. But as saints, they had their pride and confidence, and they were unwilling to bow their heads. Fellow Taoist, we admit that we are not as good as you. But aren't you worried that today's matter will cause many orthodoxies to participate in the battle? Fong Ling-su took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Do you dare fight?" The calm voice of the mysterious woman resounded between heaven and earth. How can a group of false saints be qualified to represent an orthodoxy? If there is a war, I will fight with you to the end. Everyone's heart trembled. This woman was alone, but from her words, it seemed that she was not afraid of any orthodoxy in the world at all. No one dared to answer her words, because it was very likely to cause a real war between orthodoxies, and it was very likely to shake the foundation of orthodoxy. It's already despicable for a king to intervene in a fight between juniors. Now, even a saint disregards his face and intervenes. Don't you feel ashamed? The mysterious woman was surrounded by dreamy divine rainbows, and her bearing was peerless, as if she stood aloof from the world. Although her words were calm, there was a touch of coldness in them, which frightened all the people present. "We are here just to take back the sacred treasure of our sect, and we don't intend to hurt anyone." Fong Lingsu took another deep breath and said slowly, "What's more, this man has killed so many people of our orthodoxy. It's not wrong for us to punish him, is it?" Crack! The mysterious woman raised her hand and pointed. Fong Lingsu seemed as if he was struck by lightning, and countless bones within his body broke. It hurt to the point he let out muffled groans and almost fell down from the sky. A saint was unable to resist at all. If news of this were to spread, who would dare believe it? Yet now, it had happened right before his eyes. All of you bullied the weak and intended to seize the treasure in this kid's possession. Since you've done it, yet you still dare to deny it? Is it wrong for me to punish all of you? The mysterious woman's voice was chilly, and it became even more terrifying. Not to mention that I spared your lives. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Her words were spoken casually, yet when it entered the ears of everyone present, it was like a thunderclap that struck directly at their hearts, and it seemed as if monstrous killing intent assaulted their faces. Everyone present was horrified. Chapter 11:11. There was dead silence, and only the cold voice of the mysterious woman was floating in the air. Fong Lingsu, Yumming, and other sages looked gloomier and gloomier, feeling depressed and humiliated. As a sage, they had not appeared in the world for a long time. Once they appeared, they would attract the attention of the world. This was supposed to be an action that would attract the attention of the world. Never had they thought that they would suffer a bad start, die prematurely, and be reduced to such a situation. Such a shame happened to them, and their reputation would be ruined. How would the world think of them in the future? Thinking about it, Fong Lingsu and others were so depressed that they almost coughed up blood. "Taoism peer, are you going to let go?" Yumming asked in a low voice. "Of course." The mysterious woman answered casually, "It's just a fight between the younger generation, but you bullied me like this. This time, I will give you an eye for an eye. Otherwise, do you really think that you can bully him at will because he has no one to rely on?" As soon as these words came out, the sages watching the battle in the distance were all shocked. Retribution really came. In the past, all the orthodoxies regarded Lin Sun as a rootless duckweed. Even though he was talented and outstanding, no orthodoxies took him seriously. It was the same in the West Hung boundary. It was the same in the Dongsheng boundary. Looking at those orthodoxies that wanted to kill Lin Sun, which one of them had restrained and feared when suppressing Lin Sun? No. What was the reason? It was because they thought that Lin Sun had no one to rely on, and that he was alone and could be slaughtered at will. Now, the mysterious woman's strong appearance was bound to prove Lin Sun's reputation, and those orthodoxies that had targeted and suppressed Lin Sun would not sit still. Do you really intend to become enemies with our orthodoxies? Don't you think it's a bit too much? Fong Lingsu and others were shocked and angry. Too much? If I really wanted to go too far, I would have already killed you. Why should I spare your lives? The mysterious woman's words were very cold. Speaking of this, her voice was suddenly filled with an invisible power, which spread to the whole area. From now on, I will visit each orthodoxy one by one. I will go to whichever orthodoxy that has offended Lin's son. Isn't it bullying the young? I will too. At this moment, her figure was graceful, and her breath penetrated the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Her voice was like the sound of the great way, surging and spreading. Was he going to announce to the world that he was standing up for Demon God Lin? Everyone was shocked. It was obvious that from this day forth, Fiend God Lin was no longer a rootless duckweed. Standing behind him was a woman with incredible means. Anyone who dared to touch him would have to consider the consequences. This change was bound to shake the world. After all, Lin Sun was regarded as a rogue practitioner without any sect before. He rose to the world alone. Although dazzling, he caused constant disturbances. But in the blink of an eye, a supreme figure had appeared behind him. This background wasn't just frightening, it was enough to make even the ancient orthodoxies unable to sit still. In the distance, Lin Sun's heart was boiling hot. He had an unprecedented shock, but more than that, he was moved. Ever since he had entered the ancient desolation realm, he had been through bloodshed and slaughters, and had tasted dangers and hardships. Even though he had escaped from danger every time, he had also experienced moments of helplessness and anger. When being chased, he could only run. Every time he fled, he would carry with him unwillingness, anger, and humiliation. In the eyes of others, he had escaped from danger time and time again. His rise was dazzling, but who knew what he had paid for it? If he had an absolutely powerful deterrent force, who would choose to flee? Who would dare to chase after him again and again? Unfortunately, Lin Sun was a man after all. In this vast, ancient desolation realm, if he wanted to rise, he could only endure and grow stronger, waiting for the day when he could take revenge. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he would never be able to understand this feeling. Now, the mysterious woman had appeared out of nowhere. Not only did she help him resolve the crisis of life and death, but she also stood up for him and announced it to the world. How could Lin Sun not be moved? Quietly, Lin Sun clenched his fists and controlled his inner emotions. He knew that the mysterious woman was doing this to help him remove the shackles that were blocking his path, so that he could participate in the battle of the world more fairly and seize the opportunity to reach the peak of the king realm. "Senior, I won't let you down," Lin Sun murmured in his heart. His heart became extremely firm at this moment. What do you want to do?" At the same time, Fong Ling-su and the others changed their expressions abruptly. They almost couldn't believe their ears. To visit their orthodoxies one by one? Obviously, she didn't come with good intentions. "Didn't you hear me clearly?" the mysterious woman said. "Then I'll say it again, bully the weak." Every word made the world shake, the mountains and rivers tremble. As soon as she finished speaking, the mysterious woman no longer hesitated. She waved her sleeves, and rays of bright divine rainbows rushed out and rushed to the 6 sages respectively. Bang! Under everyone's shocked gazes, Fong Ling-su, the sage, was turned into a sheep in the blink of an eye. "Bah! Bah!" Fong Ling-su roared in horror, but he could only make the sound of a sheep. His 4 hooves were in disorder, and his cultivation of the Saint Tao was completely restrained. It looked very funny, but the sages who were watching from afar were so shocked that they felt cold all over. God, what kind of method was this? How could she turn a sage into a beast? Even Lin Sun was stunned and almost couldn't believe his eyes. This kind of method could absolutely be regarded as the creation of the world and turn the rotten into the magical. No, seeing this, Sage Yumming was greatly frightened. Turning into a sheep? He absolutely couldn't accept it. He would rather die than be turned into a beast. But before he could struggle, a divine rainbow swept over and enveloped him. Then, with a bang, he also turned into a sheep, bleeding and waving his 4 hooves as if he was having a seizure. The sages who were watching from afar were completely dumbfounded. Earlier, the mysterious woman had said that she regarded Fong Ling-su and the others as beasts. Who would have thought that her words would come true at this moment? "How dare you?" Sage Dao Cohen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He struggled crazily, but it was all in vain. Then, he was also turned into a sheep. Then, Saint Miao Hua, who was paralyzed on the ground, and Saint Fuya, who was tied by the waist, also turned into sheep. The most ridiculous one was Saint Miao Hua. When she woke up from the coma, she opened her mouth to scream, but found that she was bleeding like a sheep. She immediately broke down and banged her head on the ground, trying to kill herself. But the result made her feel desperate and powerless. The horns were too hard, and a pit was dug out on the ground, but her body was unharmed. She couldn't even kill herself. Fortunately, Saint Blood Slaughter, who was nailed in the void, was not turned into a sheep. He was directly beaten back to his original form, a black Tengu, but his body was the same size as a native dog. Except for his black and soft fur, he was no different from an ordinary native dog. So far, 5 of the 6 sages turned into sheep, and 1 was beaten back to his original form, a black dog. Looking from a distance, it seemed absurd and bizarre. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, No one would have believed that these 5 sheep and 1 dog were the 6 sages who once stood proudly on the top of the world. The sages who were watching the battle in secret were completely dumbfounded. Such a means was unheard of, unseen, and completely beyond their imagination. It was to the point that their gazes towards the mysterious woman carried an indescribable fear. Ha 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 ha! Alu finally couldn't hold back his laughter. He laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. He had been worried about Lin Sun's safety and was furious like a mad bull. But as he watched the battle, he found that the situation had been reversed, which made him ecstatic. At that time, he secretly sighed that Lin Sun deserved to be his big brother. Even his backer was so domineering. Until now, when he saw the funny scene of the sages turning into animals, he was overjoyed. Crack! But the good times didn't last long. Alu was slapped on the forehead. The sloppy old Taoist gritted his teeth and transmitted his voice. Little bastard, what are you laughing at? Is this something you can laugh at? Shut up. If you cause trouble, I won't wipe your ass for you. As he said, he smiled apologetically and cupped his hands towards the distance. Ignorant boy, please don't blame me for not knowing the magic of stealing sky. For changing Sunday, the mysterious woman glanced at him and said, Do you know this method? The sloppy old Taoist hurriedly shook his head. I've only heard of it, but I haven't really seen it. After all, it's one of the 9 ancient taboos. Well, it's all my speculation. Please don't laugh at me and don't misunderstand me. His eyes flickered and his smile was so fake that even Alu could see that the old bastard didn't dare to recognize it, which was very hypocritical. The weirdest thing was that his hypocrisy was very blatant. I won't misunderstand you, and you'd better not make me misunderstand you. The mysterious woman's voice was clear and cold, with a power that could reach people's hearts. That's the best. The sloppy old Taoist hurriedly agreed. Seeing this scene, many sages who were watching in secret were all awestruck. They realized that the sloppy old Taoist was also an extraordinary person. Lin Sun, come here. The mysterious woman waved her hand. In an instant, Lin Sun's figure seemed to be teleported and came to the woman. Senior. Lin Sun bowed and saluted. Even at such a close distance, Lin Sun still couldn't see the woman's appearance clearly. She was surrounded by crystal-clear, divine rainbows like divine chains of order. She was so holy and transcendent that no one could see her face at all. But her charm could be called peerless. Although they were very close, Lin Sun had the illusion that she was far away and unreachable, just like the bright moon in the sky, which could only be looked up to but could not be touched. Would you like to herd sheep with me? The mysterious woman asked. Herding sheep? Lin Sun was stunned at first, and then he suddenly realized that this was not herding sheep, but herding saints. Yes, he agreed without hesitation, and his heart was full of excitement. Throughout the ages, who dared to turn saints into livestock and herd them? This method could be said to be extraordinary. This courage was enough to shock the world. When the sages who had been turned into sheep and black dogs heard this, they were so shocked that they started to cry out crazily. The sound of bleating and barking rang out incessantly between heaven and earth, as if they were suffering from epilepsy and rabid dog diseases. Chapter 11:12. Saint Mu. The saints who were watching in the dark gasped. A chill surged from their spines to the top of their heads, and their entire bodies emitted cold air as if they were in an ice cave. Originally, it was already humiliating enough for the saints to be turned into animals. But now, that woman intended to worship the saints as if she was herding livestock. This was simply trampling on the dignity of these saints to the limit. Even if they survived in the future, they were bound to be discredited and unable to raise their heads. Who exactly was she? The saints who were watching in the dark felt even more fearful. It was also at this moment that they suddenly noticed that the mysterious woman in the distance had suddenly turned around and swept her gaze over, causing the bodies of these saints to stiffen. Today, I announce to the world that if anyone dares to bully the weak, I don't mind making a trip to your orthodoxies. Her voice was cold and terrifying, causing the expressions of those saints to be uncertain. But if it's a competition between the same generation, I will absolutely not interfere. Her following words caused everyone to be stunned, and then they immediately understood. This woman couldn't be bothered to care about the competition between the younger generation. But if anyone dared to use the name of an ancient orthodoxy and disregard their status to target Lin's son, then she would definitely pay a visit personally and take revenge. If such a terrifying woman wanted to take revenge, no matter which orthodoxy it was, they would probably have to carefully consider the severe consequences that might arise. Let's go. The mysterious woman took a step forward, causing the mountains and earth to tremble, the wind and clouds to change, auspicious light and divine rays to gush out, and it produced a magnificent and grand scene. When her foot landed, a golden divine ray had already spread out beneath her feet, piercing through the sky and spreading towards the depths of the boundless void. In a daze, everyone seemed to have seen that as the woman moved forward, there were true dragons soaring in the sky, immortal phoenixes circling in the sky, and black tortoises opening the way. Rays of auspicious light fluttered and flowed like a divine rain of light, as if they were protecting and escorting the woman. This scene was like the legendary empress on a journey. Even a saint king probably can't possess such saintly might, right? The hearts of the saints who were watching from afar shook. This rare and almost legendary spectacle made them feel extremely amazed and shocked. In an instant, the woman's figure vanished, and only expanses of divine light flickered and covered the sky like a dream. Lin's son, a flock of sheep, and a dog disappeared with the woman. Obviously, she had really gone to St. Mu. The world returned to silence, and the shore of the Star-Chess Sea regained its usual calm. However, all the saints who were watching fell silent and did not speak for a long time. They were trying to digest everything they had seen today. The appearance of the 6 saints had already shaken the world. But now, these 6 saints were in trouble and were being herded like livestock. If this scene was spread out, it would definitely shake the entire ancient desolation realm. From today on, who in the world dares to treat Lin's son as before? Indeed, Lin's son is talented and has amazing potential. Now he is such a big mountain to rely on. His rise is destined to be unstoppable. I'm just curious, who exactly is that woman? These saints from different orthodoxies were discussing. The battle just now had given them a huge shock. It could be foreseen that this matter couldn't be concealed at all, and it would inevitably cause a great commotion. Old bastard, let's go take a look as well. Alu's face was full of expectation, herding sheep and a flock of sacred sheep. This scene will definitely be very exciting and rarely seen. The slovenly old Taoist sighed with a complicated expression. It's better not to get involved in this matter. That woman's background is not simple. I thought she had already... Who would have thought? Alas, it's better not to say it. Alu was confused and could not help stamping his feet. Old bastard. What the hell are you trying to say? Crack. The slovenly old Taoist slapped Alu's forehead and scolded. Why are you in such a hurry? Do you want to know the secret? Let's talk about it after you reach the peak of the king realm. As he spoke, he grabbed Alu, turned around, and left through the void. Old bastard, what are you going to do? I'm not going back to the village. I'm going to find my big brother. Alu shouted. But no matter how he shouted, he was still taken away. At the shore of the Star-Chess Sea, people left one after another. The area was full of people, and finally, peace was restored. Almost immediately, the news spread and shook the entire ancient desolation realm. Among the sages watching the battle, there was a sage from the Wind Whisperer clan. It was hard for the news to not spread quickly. In the 4 great worlds of the ancient desolation realm, wherever there was a message tree, it caused a huge commotion. When the 6 sages went out, everyone thought that demon god Lin would definitely die. Who would have thought that such a shocking turn of events would happen? My God, who is that mysterious woman? How could she suppress all the sages? Everyone was in an uproar, and no area could calm down. Because this battle involved the battle of the Saint State, it was hard not to attract attention. Worshipping the sages, this is unbelievable. When some of the ancient orthodoxies received the news, they were shocked. Quick, find out more information. No matter what, We have to find out who that mysterious woman is. Some people were anxious. Since when did this demon god Lin have such a backer? Could it be an old antique from some Saint Hermit grounds? All kinds of discussions, guesses, and analyses were happening in different places. The whole world was in a turbulent state. Long before the storm swept the world, the mysterious woman and Lin Sun had already herded a flock of sheep and a black dog to a majestic ancient spirit mountain. Their speed was indeed fast. For Lin Sun, it was only a dozen breaths, but they had already teleported thousands of miles away. Lin Sun couldn't help but yearn for this kind of great void shift, using only his own cultivation without the help of the ancient transmission formation. This is the Black Nightmare Mountain, the birthplace of the Black Nightmare Tengu tribe. There are not many tribes that I hate, but this tribe is one of them. The mysterious woman said casually. Woof, woof. In front of them, the black dog, transformed by the bloody massacre, Saint barked anxiously. His eyes were full of shame and indignation. But when a mysterious woman looked over, the black dog shivered and whimpered, crawling on the ground and shivering. Lin Sun was in a trance. Was she still a sage? She was so embarrassed, even as a dog. We have to hurry up. The woman seemed to have sensed something. She suddenly raised her head and looked at the sky. At this moment, Lin Sun keenly sensed that there was an indescribable chill coming from the woman, as if there was something in the depths of the sky that she hated and rejected. Boom! Before Lin Sun could figure it out, the woman stretched out her hand and patted the void. A boundlessly terrifying blood-red grand formation suddenly surged out from the surroundings of the nearby lofty mountain, and it intended to block this palm strike from afar. But in the blink of an eye, a hole appeared in the formation, and a rain of light scattered about. Lin Sun gasped. If he was right, the formation defending the Black Nightmare Mountain should be a holy formation. Although it was not as terrifying as the Heavenly Cycle Stars formation, it could also be called marvelous. But now, it had been smashed by a palm. Who? Which madman dares to make trouble in my tribe? You're courting death. Along with the explosion of the formation, the scene on Black Nightmare Mountain changed abruptly. Numerous densely packed ancient buildings appeared on the mountain, and they were arranged in an orderly manner that seemed to stretch endlessly. At this moment, a group of cultivators charged out with a murderous aura, and all of them were extremely shocked and furious. They seemed to have never imagined that there would be someone in the world that dared to come to the residence of their Black Nightmare Dog clan and cause trouble. But when they saw a man, a woman, a flock of sheep, and a black dog standing outside the entrance, all of these cultivators were extremely astounded. This scene was too strange. Did they come to Black Nightmare Mountain to herd sheep? And they even brought along a shepherd dog. Wait, but when they took a closer look at the black dog, all of these cultivators were stunned. This isn't a fucking shepherd dog. It's obviously one of their clansmen. In an instant, their expressions became extremely unsightly, and the gazes they shot at Lin Sun and the mysterious woman carried dense, killing intent. However, when a mysterious woman casually glanced at them, the bodies of these murderous Black Sea Tengu clan experts stiffened. Their souls were in intense pain, and their vision darkened. After that, all of them tumbled to the ground and fainted without exception. They didn't even have the time to let out a shrill cry. A trace of pity flashed in Lin Sun's eyes. These black dog bastards were probably used to being arrogant, and they were bound to be utterly unable to imagine how terrifying the existence before them was. Is it very boring? Asked the mysterious woman. Lin Sun shook his head and said with a smile, No, it's very satisfying. The mysterious woman said, But I'm not. If I want to bully the weak, then I have to find some fellows with some weight to bully. She gazed towards the depths of Black Nightmare Mountain and said, Let's go in. As she spoke, she'd already driven a flock of sheep and a dog forward. She was clearly aware that this was the residence of the Black Nightmare Dog clan. It was comparable to the headquarters of an ancient orthodoxy. But the mysterious woman treated it as if it didn't exist and entered as she pleased. Her imperceptible boldness caused Lin Sun's blood to boil. Boom! As the mysterious woman moved forward, Even though the power of the Black Nightmare Mountain's Prohibition Formation was fully activated, it collapsed inch by inch like a piece of paper, unable to obstruct her at all. In the process, the experts of the Black Nightmare Dog Clan kept rushing out, densely packed like a tide. But before they could even get close, they all fell to the ground one by one. Not a single one of them could remain standing, and it was even more impossible for anyone to obstruct them. Lin Sun was shocked once again. If he also possessed such extraordinary cultivation, where couldn't he go in this vast world? Even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he could walk on it as if it was flat ground. The Black Nightmare Mountain was extremely large and towering. The spiritual energy on the mountain was dense, and mist curled upwards. Spiritual springs, waterfalls, and exotic plants could be seen everywhere. It was completely the atmosphere of an immortal paradise. But as the mysterious woman and Lin Sun entered, the original peace and tranquility of the Black Nightmare Dog Clan's residence was broken, and it became completely turbulent and chaotic. Chapter 11:13. Black Nightmare Mountain. Within a majestic hall, a woman was sobbing softly as she complained to an old man in the lead. The woman was Go Yinjin's mother. The old man was the Black Nightmare Tengu clan's leader, Go Yanghai. He was a terrifying existence who had stepped into the longevity Ninth Tribulation realm and was just a step away from the Sage realm. Clan leader, you watch Yinjin grow up. Now that he died by the Star Chess Ocean, I hate him so much. Go Yanghai said unhappily. Lord Bloody Slaughter has already attacked. That little bastard Lin Sun will definitely be killed. Isn't that enough to make you feel better? Truthfully speaking, when he heard the news of Go Yinjin's death, it caused him to be extremely furious as well. Go Yinjin was a peerless genius of their clan, and Go Yinjin was a peerless genius that had an extremely high chance of stepping foot into the King realm in this world. But now he had been killed. But the Star Chess Ocean is enveloped by a supreme restriction. If that little bastard is hiding in there, Lord Bloody Slaughter will. The woman was unwilling. However, before she could finish, Go Yanghai interrupted her with a frown. How dare you? Are you doubting Lord Bloody Slaughter's strength? The Sage realm is like the heavens. How can you estimate it? The woman's body trembled. She was frightened. Go Yanghai's tone softened. Don't worry. It's not just Lord Bloody Slaughter this time. There are 5 other sages attacking together. That little bastard Lin Sun has no chance of survival. Boom! At this moment, a violent explosion came from the foot of the mountain. The entire Black Nightmare Mountain shook, and the hall was affected. Instantly, the tables, chairs, decorations, teacups, and other utensils in the hall shook, falling to the ground and shattering. What happened? Go Yanghai stood up, his expression darkening. 2 terrifying beams of blood light shot out from his eyes. Clan leader, it's bad. Someone has attacked our Black Nightmare Mountain. An expert outside the hall shouted in panic. How dare they? Do you know which orthodoxy it is? They must be tired of living. Go Yanghai was furious. Their Black Nightmare Tengu clan was spread throughout the ancient Desolation region. They were powerful, and they were the only ones invading others. When had they ever been attacked? Even the ancient orthodoxies did not dare to do this. There's only a man and a woman. Oh, right, there's also a herd of sheep. The expert reported. A flock of sheep? Go Yanghai was caught off guard and almost couldn't believe his ears. Is it a strong man of the Qingyang bloodline? No, they're just a group of ordinary beasts. The expert was also dumbfounded and did not know how to explain. I don't care who he is. Since he dares to come to my Black Nightmare Mountain and behave atrociously, he can forget about leaving alive no matter who he is. Go Yanghai's face was cold, and his killing intent surged as he walked out of the hall. Boom! The Black Nightmare Mountain was shaking violently. The mountain rocks collapsed, the ancient trees exploded, and the spiritual spring water stopped flowing. Waves of miserable cries rang out. The mysterious woman paced about with an extraordinary bearing. Sparkling and translucent divine rainbows lingered around her. In front of her, there was a flock of sheep and a dog. It looked as if they were herding cattle in the mountains. But as she moved forward, the Black Sea Tengu clan's experts that charged towards her fell to the ground as if they had been struck by lightning before they could even get close to her. The mysterious woman didn't even spare him a glance, and her graceful figure continued to ascend the mountain. Lin Sun followed them and saw this scene with his eyes. He felt very happy in his heart. When he was in the West Hung boundary, he was chased by the Black Sea Tengu clan. Even when he reached the Dongshang boundary, they still didn't give up and targeted him like ghosts. But now, everything was reversed. He was brought along and directly ascended the gate of the Black Sea Tengu clan. They advanced as if they were entering an uninhabited land. They were truly unstoppable. Who are you? How dare you? Don't you know that this is the territory of the Black Sea Tengu clan? In the distance, a strong man who had stepped into the king realm shouted. But when his gaze fell on the mysterious woman, it was as if he was struck by lightning. He was so shocked that his soul almost flew out of his body. You are, Saint. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his soul, and he fell to the ground softly. Behind this king realm, there were more than 10 strong men following. When they saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Then they all fell to the ground with a thud. The mysterious woman seemed to be walking forward step by step, but in reality, every step she took seemed to shrink the ground into an inch. Her speed was extremely fast. When she reached halfway up the mountain, the path behind her was already filled with bodies. Most of them didn't even have time to react before they fainted from the shock. There were also some who died on the spot, their blood staining the mountain. The reason was that they had spoken rudely and insulted her, causing them to lose their lives. The ground was a mess, and it was extremely terrifying. Oh my God, run! In the distance, the strong men of the Black Sea Tengu clan who saw this scene were scared out of their wits. They turned and fled up the mountain. They had all seen clearly that there was no way for them to fight back. The difference was too great. A bunch of trash, back off. Suddenly, Go Yanghai's incomparably majestic voice rang out, reverberating throughout the Black Sea Mountain. At the same time, the mysterious woman stepped on a mountain path and appeared at the peak of the mountain. The peak of the Black Sea Mountain was extremely flat and spacious. Ancient buildings stood in great numbers. The sea of clouds steamed, and spiritual clouds curled up. It was like an otherworldly Pure Land. A ray of light shone on the mysterious woman's body, giving her a dreamy aura. Sage. With just a glance, Go Yanghai, who had been raging with rage, calmed down completely as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water over him. He couldn't help but look shocked and solemn. Sage. These two words made the restless and panicked strong men of the Black Sea Tengu clan freeze on the spot, their bodies stiff. The surroundings were deathly silent. All eyes fell on the same place. A man, a woman, a flock of sheep, and a black dog. This scene was bizarre and absurd no matter how one looked at it. Even Go Yanghai felt dizzy. A sage had come to kill them, but brought a flock of sheep and a dog. It was strange no matter how one looked at it. It's you little bastard. Suddenly, a scream sounded. A woman stared at Lin Sun, who was beside the mysterious woman, with hatred, as if she wanted to bite him. Go Yanghai's heart skipped a beat. He recognized Lin Sun as well. He had been shocked by the mysterious woman earlier, so he didn't immediately recognize who the young man was. This lad wasn't dead. Didn't this mean that Lord Bloody Slaughter was heading to the Sea of Stars? Thinking of this, Go Yanghai's heart trembled. His expression was uncertain, and he found it hard to believe. Clan leader, kill him, to avenge my son. The woman's scream caused Go Yanghai's expression to change slightly. He suddenly struck out and knocked the woman unconscious. This was purely a subconscious action. He knew that the consequences of shouting in front of Sage were too severe. After so many years, the Black Sea Mountain is still the same. It's filthy and smelly. The mysterious woman spoke. She casually sized up the surroundings and seemed a bit disappointed. Her voice was calm, but it was like the sonorous voice of the great Tao. It emitted a supreme majesty that shrouded the world, causing everyone present to tense up and feel an indescribable pressure. May I know why you've come? Go Yanghai took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, ignoring the disgust in the mysterious woman's words. However, at that moment, an extremely old voice sounded. "Young Hai, you may step down. I can only receive a sage personally." Along with the voice, a skinny old man in a black robe with a face full of wrinkles appeared out of thin air and entered the field. Lord Bloody Star, Go Yang Hai, and the other black sea dogs present were all refreshed. The depression and panic in their hearts were swept away. Bloody Star Sage was an old monster who had been in closed-door training for nearly 8,000 years. For Go Yang Hai and the others, he was definitely a pillar who could make them feel at ease. "Fellow Taoist, why did you drive a flock of sheep here?" Bloody Star Sage's voice was old as he looked at the mysterious woman calmly. As for Lin Sun, he was directly ignored by him. "First, I want to help this lad vent his anger. Second, I want to make a deal with you," the mysterious woman said casually. Only then did Bloody Star Sage look at Lin Sun. At that moment, Lin Sun felt an unprecedented pressure. Even his divine soul was trembling. It was as if a mere gaze was enough to kill him. "If your eyes are not good, I can help you take them out. It's useless to keep them anyway." As soon as the mysterious woman said this, Lin Sun felt the pressure and discomfort all over his body disappear. At the same time, Bloody Star Sage also withdrew his gaze and said with a smile, "Don't joke around, Taoism friend. I'm just curious why someone like you would not hesitate to kill your way into my Black Nightmare Mountain for a junior. It's very simple. You bullied the young, so I had no choice but to come personally," the mysterious woman said casually. Bloody Star Sage was stunned. Seeing this, Go Yang Hai quickly explained through voice transmission. In an instant, Bloody Star Sage's expression changed slightly. With a terrifying divine light surging in his eyes, he said, "Taoism friend, may I know what happened at the shore of the Star Chest Sea?" The mysterious woman said, "You will naturally know after this deal is done." As she spoke, she raised her hand and pointed at the black dog that was crawling with its head buried in the ground, looking so ashamed that it wanted to find a hole to hide in. She said, "I'll sell this dog's life to you." This black dog was none other than the blood-slaughtered saint. The Black Nightmare Mountain was his lair, and now he, a saint, was being chased to his own clan and was even being sold to his own clansmen. This was undoubtedly too humiliating. He was so ashamed that he wanted to die and was about to go crazy. "If I'm not mistaken, this is a member of my clan," Bloody Star Sage said with a frown. "Never mind, there's no need to say more. How do you intend to carry out this deal?" 10 segments of ancestral root divine bamboo will do, the mysterious woman said. Ancestral root divine bamboo. Everyone's expression changed drastically. This was the supreme treasure of their Black Nightmare lineage. It was a unique divine material in the world. In the entire world, only their clan's ancestral root ground could nurture such a divine material. Moreover, ancestral root divine bamboo could only grow one segment every 3,000 years. The production was extremely limited. If they sold it, it would not even be enough for their own clan. The mysterious woman asked for 10 segments of ancestral root divine bamboo. It was clearly an exorbitant demand. Chapter 11:14. Everyone was indignant, thinking that the mysterious woman was demanding an exorbitant price. She obviously thought that their clan was easy to bully. The black dog on the ground, except for its smooth black fur, looked extremely cowardly. It had been crawling on the ground since it appeared, wishing it could stuff its head into a crack in the ground. How could such a good-for-nothing be worth 10 sections of ancestral divine bamboo? If the bloody massacre saint on the ground knew what they were thinking, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Good for nothing? This was simply unbearable. Fellow practitioner, our Black Demon Dog clan has tens of thousands of descendants. Don't you think it's a bit too much to ask for 10 sections of ancestral divine bamboo from one of us? The Bloodstar Saint said slowly. Although he was extremely old and looked like he had 1 foot in the grave, there was an invisible majesty about him. "So, you think this dog is not worth the price?" the mysterious woman asked. "No, not at all. the Bloodstar Saint said. At most, it's worth 3 sections of ancestral divine bamboo, and that's for your sake. Otherwise, before he finished his words, his meaning had been made clear. Even so, the other strong practitioners of the Black Demon Dog clan still looked gloomy. Many of their clansmen were injured along the way, and now they had to be extorted by the other party. It was so frustrating. Linson almost burst out laughing with a weird expression. If this old guy knew the identity of this dog, he would probably slap his own face. In that case, I won't sell this dog, the mysterious woman said. Woof, woof. At this time, the Bloody Massacre Saint, who had turned into a black dog, raised his head and barked at the Bloodstar Saint, looking extremely angry. How dare you? How dare you be so rude to me? Go Hai, who had been holding back his anger for a long time, kicked at the dog without hesitation. Bang! The black dog flew backward and smashed on a rock more than 30 meters away. Smoke and dust filled the air, looking extremely embarrassed. Lin Sun was stunned and almost gave Go Hai a thumbs up. He deserved to be the patriarch of the Black Demon Dog clan. He kicked his saint away. Woof, 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 woof. The black dog rushed out as if it had gone mad. Its howls grew louder and louder as if it had gone mad again. Go Hai's face turned ashen when he saw that this fellow was so stupid. Just as he was about to teach him a lesson, the Bloodstar Saint seemed to have noticed something and cried out, "Stop!" An explosive shout was like muffled thunder that shook the heavens and the earth, and it shook Go Hai to the point he staggered and almost fell to the ground. The others were also terrified, their expressions changing greatly, not understanding what was going on. You were Shuet too? Shuexing's eyes shot out a terrifying divine light as he stared at the barking black dog. At this moment, Lin Sun clearly saw that there were traces of tears in Black Dog's eyes. He didn't know whether it was tears of joy or something else. The entire place was silent. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the black dog on the ground, wondering if they had heard wrongly. Lord Blood Butcher? This black dog. How could it be Lord Shuet too? This was especially true for Go Hai. He had just given the black dog a hard kick and was planning to teach it a lesson. Who would have thought that such a reversal would occur? All of a sudden, his face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. The scene in front of him was so interesting that it could be recalled many times. In the end, the Bloodstar Saint confirmed this fact. His face suddenly became extremely gloomy and cold. His eyes locked on the mysterious woman like lightning. Fellow practitioner, are you here to humiliate the Dark Nightmare tribe? The others were also furious and felt extremely humiliated. The saint was being ordered around and sold like a dog. Who could tolerate this? The mysterious woman said calmly. Humiliate? Not really. It's just a punishment for him. If you're not satisfied, you can have a fight with me. Her casual words revealed an indescribable domineering aura that made heaven and earth tremble as if they were bowing down to her. Those who were below the saint realm felt a buzzing sound in their heads and saw stars. They felt so oppressed that they almost suffocated. At this moment, the mysterious woman seemed to have turned into a dominator. Her supreme momentum made the Bloodstar Saint's face change. Woof, woof. The black dog barked again, seeming extremely anxious. The Bloodstar Saint communicated with it through his divine soul. No one knew what the two said, but the Bloodstar Saint's expression changed. When he raised his head to look at the mysterious woman again, his eyes were filled with deep shock and disbelief. Lin Sun could roughly guess that the Bloodstar Saint had probably already learned about what happened at the Star Chassis. All right, let's do as you say. In the end, the Bloodstar Saint took a deep breath and made a decision. He immediately ordered someone to bring a wooden box. 10 sections of bamboo were neatly placed in the box. This bamboo was completely jade white and snow white, and the surface of every single segment was actually branded with strange markings of the Tao. Moreover, there were strands of lightning that seemed like hairs flowing through it, and it emanated extremely dense vitality. This was the divine bamboo that was nurtured in the Dark Nightmare Dog tribe's ancestral land. It would only grow one section every 3,000 years. It was a divine material that could only be found by luck. The mysterious woman glanced at it and ordered Lin Sun to accept it. The Bloodstar Saint felt a pang in his heart. 10 sections of ancestral source divine bamboo was equivalent to 30,000 years of savings flying away. Are you satisfied now? The Bloodstar Saint said in a low voice. Almost. The mysterious woman nodded. She then glanced at everyone present and said, This time, I'm just here to visit. If there's another incident where I bully the weak, it won't be as simple as just a visit. This was a silent threat. Everyone could hear it, but the Bloodstar Sage eventually suppressed his killing intent and said, If that's the case, can you let him go now? In the end, the mysterious woman left the Bloodstar Saint and left with Lin Sun with a flock of sheep. When they came, they broke through the mountain gate and entered an unstoppable place, forcing the Bloodstar Saint to bow his head. When they left, no one dared to stop them. No one dared to stop them. This style was an eye-opener for Lin Sun. If they had such means, even if they were alone and had no one to rely on, no one would dare to bully them. Sir, why did you agree to his request? Can't our tribe keep a Bloodstar Saint here? After a long time, Go Yanghai gnashed his teeth and said, Today's incident could be said to be an extremely heavy blow to their entire race, and it was an extraordinary humiliation. Did you notice that flock of sheep? The Bloodstar Saint asked expressionlessly. Go Yanghai was stunned. He had a bad premonition and said, Could it be? Yes, that's the Bloodstar Saint of the other 5 orthodoxies. If this woman wants to kill people, how many people do you think will survive this time? The Bloodstar Saint said coldly. Go Yanghai felt cold all over. The more he thought about it, the more frightened he became. Yanghai, as the patriarch, you don't even have this little insight. No wonder your cultivation has been stuck in the 9 calamities of longevity realm, and you can't step into the saint realm. On the other side, the Bloodstar Saint, who had recovered, said coldly. Go Yanghai's scalp was numb. He didn't dare to look at the Bloodstar Saint's eyes. Just now, he had kicked the Bloodstar Saint away. Although it was unintentional, if the Bloodstar Saint looked into it, the consequences would not be good. But should I just let it go? Go Yanghai felt aggrieved. Of course not. The Bloodstar Saint said without hesitation. His old face was cold, and his scarlet eyes burst out a terrible bloody light. No matter who it is, whoever dares to humiliate my clan must pay 10 times or even 100 times the price. He took a deep breath and ordered, Investigate. No matter what price we have to pay, we must find out the details and origin of this woman. Even if we can't take revenge now, we will do it in the future. Even though his words were extremely ruthless, everyone was able to discern that it was bound to be impossible for them to immediately take revenge before they figured out the background of that mysterious woman. This made them feel even more upset. This treasure should be called Calamity Divine Bamboo. It grows in destruction and goes through a tribulation every 3,000 years. Each time, it can obtain a thunder spiritual liquid from the thunder tribulation. This liquid can not only bring the dead back to life, but also has immeasurable benefits for cultivation. It can be regarded as a real spiritual medicine. A bright golden ray of light stretched out and penetrated through the boundless space. The mysterious woman stood on it, and she was guiding Lin Sun and telling him about the origins of the ancestral root divine bamboo. Lin Sun finally understood the value of the 10 pieces of thunder bamboo in his hand. No matter how serious the injury was, as long as he took the thunder spiritual liquid in the bamboo tube, he could instantly recover to his peak state. Moreover, it could also temper the Taoist root, nourish the soul, purify the mind, and so on. It was absolutely not an exaggeration to say that this treasure was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. I didn't expect the Black Sea Dog clan to have such a magical bamboo. Lin Sun thought, Do you want to uproot this bamboo? The mysterious woman asked suddenly. Lin Sun shook his head and said, No, not for the time being. So you plan to do so in the future. The mysterious woman said, However, I advise you not to think about this treasure before you become a great sage. Great sage? Lin Sun was shocked. Yes, there are real and fake sages in this world, and there are different levels on the road of true sage. The mysterious woman nodded and pointed out to Lin Sun. There were two kinds of fake sages. The first kind was when they reached the King Realm. They had to use the Tao Seed to build the foundation of King Realm, because they couldn't build the Tao Seed of Self. This kind of people also had the Tao Seed and could understand the way of longevity and pass the tribulation of longevity. But because the Tao Seed didn't belong to them, becoming a sage was already the end of their road. The simplest way to judge this kind of fake sage was to see if they could condense the law of divine Tao. If they didn't have the law of divine Tao, they were the most inferior existence in the sage realm. Of course, this kind of inferior was for the sage realm. For the practitioners below the sage realm, even this kind of fake sage was an existence that they could only look up to. It was not an exaggeration to say that the sage realm was like the sky. P.S. The goldfish broke out for 2 days in a row, and tomorrow it wants to break out again. Do you support it? If you do, throw your monthly votes. Chapter 11:15. In short, the first kind of pseudo-holiness had been determined from the moment he became a king. This was the difference between the original Tao Seed and the fake Tao Seed. The original Tao Seed gathered the cultivation of the practitioner. The higher the quality, the farther, stronger, and higher he could go on the road of immortality. The fake Tao Seed belonged to an external force, which was to match one's own cultivation with the Tao Seed that didn't belong to oneself. In cultivation, the power that didn't belong to oneself was an external force after all, and the fake Tao Seed was the same. The second kind of pseudo-holiness was different. According to the mysterious woman, those who stepped into the saint realm in the world could be called pseudo-holiness as long as they followed the established path of cultivation. This kind of sage could also comprehend the law of divine Tao and seek the way of holiness. But because they followed the path of cultivation that people had walked in the past, their achievements were doomed. However, the mysterious woman also said that in the eyes of the world's practitioners, the second kind of pseudo-holiness was already a true sage. They mastered the power completely different from the first kind of pseudo-holiness and could comprehend the law of divine Tao. This was the difference of vision. In the eyes of people like the mysterious woman, although there were differences between the first kind of pseudo-holiness and the second kind of pseudo-holiness, they were doomed to have limited achievements after all. But in the eyes of others, they were destined not to think so. A sage without a sage is a true sage, and the Tao without Tao is the great way. Lin Sun suddenly murmured, thinking of a strange experience in the past. There was an ice and snow tree in the mulberry forest of the bloodthirsty battlefield, on which there was a golden cicada and a white cicada. Both of them were terrible existences who had stepped into the saint realm. By chance, Lin Sun once had a strange chat with the golden cicada, and the cicada had said this at that time. "Hey, who told you this?" The mysterious woman was stunned and seemed to be a little surprised. Lin Sun didn't hide it and told her the experience of chatting with the golden cicada. Golden cicada. The mysterious woman seemed to think of something and fell into silence. This is a madman whose stubbornness is admirable. Back then, he made a sacred wish that one day, all living things in the world could become saints. The mysterious woman seemed to sigh with emotion, and her chilly voice carried a trace of reminiscence. Everyone knows that it's impossible, but this madman has always been searching for it. Forget it, I won't talk about it. She shook her head, as if she didn't want to wallow in her memories. It was as if she couldn't bear to recall them. Lin Sun originally wanted to ask about the origin of the golden cicada, but when he saw this, he immediately held back, knowing that he wouldn't get an answer even if he asked. However, he's right. A saint without a saint is a true saint, and a Taoist Tao is a grand Tao. A true saint has to establish an unprecedented path towards the Tao. At this point, the mysterious woman sighed and said, "This requirement is too harsh. Since ancient times, most of the people who have stepped into the saint realm have never been able to open their own path of divinity. Most of the peerless sages I know have died here too, unable to take the next step. It's simply too difficult. Have you ever set foot on this path? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. The mysterious woman was startled, and she said after a while, "You can say that. You'll naturally understand when you step into the Saint Realm." Next, she briefly explained the Saint Realm. Above the Saint Realm was the Great Saint, which meant great and immeasurable. Above the Great Saint was the King of Saint, also regarded as the King of Saint. As for whether there was a higher realm above the King of Saint, the mysterious woman didn't say, and Lin Sun didn't ask. But no matter whether it was the true saint or the false saint, no matter the level of the saint realm, it was still a little far away for Lin Sun at present. After all, he hadn't even stepped into the king's realm. Reaching beyond one's reach was a taboo in cultivation. Crack! Suddenly, a clear and melodious sound that sounded like glass shattering resounded in the sky. The mysterious woman suddenly raised her head, looking cold and frightening. A horrifying spatial rift had suddenly appeared in the clear sky, and it was like a hole had been torn open in the sky. One could vaguely see the shadow of a spear filled with supreme majesty looming in the crack of the void. Lin Sun's hair stood on end. He felt an unprecedented, oppressive, and fatal aura, which made him stiff all over. His soul, Taoist heart, and even his cultivation all showed a sign of collapse. Clatter, the mysterious woman waved her hand, and a divine rainbow shrouded Lin Sun and moved him to a very far place. She stood under the crack with a calm look, but her aura became more and more frightening. Not far away, a flock of sheep was shivering and crawling there like mud. Their eyes were full of horror. It seemed that they didn't expect that such a terrible thing would happen suddenly. Clang! The spear's shadow made a sound, and the area was roaring. Suddenly, the world was filled with an indescribable atmosphere of killing and destruction. The world was turned upside down, and the universe was changing. This world seemed to be facing the punishment of God. It came ahead of time, the mysterious woman said to herself. She didn't avoid it, but stood there quietly. Thousands of divine rainbows appeared around her, which made her figure extraordinary and dreamy. Crack! Crack! In the crack in the void, the shadow of the spear gradually condensed and swept out from the broken sky, shattering the nearby void. The shadow of the spear was too horrible. It was intertwined with the supreme power of Tao and law, like a spear of judgment from heaven. Just like in the past, the mysterious woman didn't avoid it because it was useless to avoid it, because it was the Tao severance spear, and it was like the embodiment of the will of the heaven Tao. Its origins were unfathomable, and it represented inauspiciousness and death. Bang! The spear finally appeared completely. It was too dazzling and blazing, and it was suffused with a boundlessly terrifying aura of slaughter as it smashed down from the sky. At this instant, the flock of sheep that was formed from the 5 saints felt terror as if their souls were about to leave their bodies, and they directly fainted. This was undoubtedly extremely terrifying because the aura emanated by a single spear had actually caused 5 saints to be knocked out in unison. Would anyone dare to believe it if news of this were spread? At the same time, the mysterious woman didn't avoid it. She pressed her finger together and pointed out, and then the myriad of divine rainbows that coiled around her suddenly flashed out and converged at the tip of her finger. As expected, the tip of her finger collided with the spear. Bang! It was like the heavens and the earth were collapsing. The blazing energy of the laws of order transformed into a monstrous chaotic flow that instantly erupted and swept through the world. It was hard to imagine what kind of supreme and terrifying power this was. It seemed to be able to collapse the sky, break the Great Way, and create a destructive aura that was enough to make all living beings in the world despair. Lin Sun suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his eyes, and his soul was buzzing. Even with the protection of the divine rainbows, he still felt a kind of boundless fear in his mind. Then, he couldn't see anything. After a long time, when Lin Sun's vision became clear again, he saw that the world had already returned to its original state. The sky was still the same, without a trace of being broken. On the earth, the mountains and rivers were still there, and even the grass and trees were intact. It seemed that what he had just seen was just a nightmare that had never happened at all. But when he saw the mysterious woman, Lin Sun was shocked because there was a bowl-sized hole in her left shoulder. Moreover, her figure became more and more blurred and hazy, like smoke, as if it would dissipate at any time. This is the power of Tao severance from the great way of the ancient desolation territory. Anyone who sets foot on the forbidden path of the Saint Realm will be targeted by it. The mysterious woman said casually. When she turned around to look at Lin Sun, the wound on her left shoulder had disappeared. The power of Tao severance. Lin Sun suddenly remembered that he had seen such a scene in the ancient temple left by holy monk Du Ji in the Ksitigarbha temple in the depths of the Boundary River. At that time, through the white jade lotus throne, he was even lucky enough to see the scene when holy monk Du Ji and holy Black Phoenix Empress practiced together. It was like a dream of thousands of years. But in the end, the two sages died at the same time. The one who killed them was an imposing golden figure. The reason was that the two sages created a Dharma scripture together, which violated some taboo power, so that the power of Tao severance came. And the golden figure came from the same place as the power of Tao severance. Thinking of this, Lin Sun was shocked. Today he had witnessed such a taboo power with his own eyes, and the mysterious woman could survive the power of Tao severance, which was extremely terrifying. "Senior, are you all right?" Lin Sun put aside the distractions in his mind and asked. "I'm fine. I can stay for a while." The mysterious woman looked very calm. "But time is running out. I have to change my schedule." As she said, her figure flashed and suddenly evolved into 5 doppelgangers. Each doppelganger was exactly the same as her and had the same amazing aura. "I will send these 5 sheep to different orthodoxies to sell. Are you going to go to the Boundary River with me, or to a certain orthodoxy?" the mysterious woman asked. Originally, according to her plan, she would take Lin Sun to visit the remaining 5 orthodoxies one by one, but it seemed that the appearance of the power of Tao severance changed this idea. The Boundary River? Lin Sun was stunned. Yes, only in the Boundary River can we infer the time of the coming Great Era, and we can also see how different this Great Era is. As soon as the mysterious woman's voice fell, Lin Sun said without hesitation, "I'll go to the Boundary River with you. You really don't want to go to the heaven-reaching sword sect or the holy land of spirit treasure. This is a rare opportunity. Even if it's just a doppelganger, it won't let you suffer any harm." The mysterious woman seemed to mean something. "I'm not going." Although Lin Sun felt regretful, he also knew that even if he went there, it would be no different from going to the Black Sea Tengu tribe. Although it would make him feel happy, it was meaningless after all. If he could follow the mysterious woman to see the signs of the coming Great Era, it would undoubtedly be the most precious experience. "Okay," the mysterious woman nodded. Her 5 doppelgangers moved together, each driving a sheep, riding the divine rainbow, and moved through the void to the 5 orthodoxies. And she took Lin Sun to the east. Chapter 11:16. The Numinous Treasure Hallowed Land. Burton Cliff Plateau, true martial hall. All the higher-ups were gathered here. There were men and women, young and old, and even the weakest amongst them was at the king realm. The person with the highest status was a young man in a jade robe and a crown. The young man was handsome and handsome. He sat there casually, yet the aura he emanated pressured all the great figures present here to the point they felt suffocated. Moreover, all of these great figures sat upright, while their expressions carried a wisp of solemnity and even reverence. The young man wasn't a young man any longer. He was an old fellow that had stepped foot into the Saint Realm a few thousand years ago, and his name was Yu Jun. His cultivation was unfathomable. Humiliation. Yu Jun broke the deathly silence in the hall, and it caused the hearts of everyone present to jerk while their expressions changed indeterminately. Since the ancient times until now, my numinous treasure-hallowed land has never suffered such humiliation. Yu Yujun's voice was indifferent, while every single word he spoke was sonorous like thunder, and it emanated a great dignity that terrified the soul as it rumbled and surged through the hall. However, after that, Yu Yujun changed the topic, and his voice eased up. This can't be blamed on anyone. Who would have imagined that such an extraordinary figure would actually be standing by the side of a tiny ant? Everyone heaved sighs of relief in their hearts while they revealed complicated expressions. My lord, then what should we do? Just wait helplessly for that woman to pay us a visit? Someone couldn't help but ask. What else can we do besides wait? Yu Yujun sighed lightly. St. Dao Kuan is still in her hands. No matter how furious and humiliated we are, we can only endure it this time. The others felt a wave of sorrow and rage in their hearts when they heard this. As an ancient sect that was second to none in the world, when had they ever suffered such treatment? My lord, are you able to deduce exactly who that woman is? Could it be that even with the resources and reserves of our numinous treasure-hallowed land, we can't afford to offend her? Someone asked. Then we have to meet her first. Perhaps we'll be able to discover some clues. Yu Yujun's eyes suddenly focused when he spoke up to hear. His eyes suddenly focused, and he stood up abruptly. That woman is here. All of you, come with me to meet her. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked out of the hall. A grand path formed from golden rays of light suddenly appeared in the sky above verdant cliff plateau, and then a graceful and hazy figure floated out from within it. In front of her, there was a goat being herded. Even though they had already learned of what had happened to the shores of the Sea of Stars, the important figures of the spiritual treasure, Holy Lands, still felt extremely humiliated and furious when they saw this scene, turning a saint into a beast. The woman had really driven the sheep that Saint Dao Kuan had transformed into here, and she was all by herself, as if she was fearless. Although this graceful figure was an incarnation of the mysterious woman, it was no different from her original body. At this moment, her gaze swept across the crowd that was walking over from afar, and she said in a cold voice, "It seems that all of you are very angry." "I wouldn't dare," someone said expressionlessly. Boom! The mysterious woman took a step forward. In an instant, a terrifying and boundless might radiated from her graceful figure, causing the heavens and earth to rumble. Thump! 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 It was unknown how many high-ranking figures were instantly suppressed to the ground, and they rolled on the ground in disorder. They didn't even have the power to resist. Fellow Taoist, what is the meaning of this? Yu Yujun's expression darkened, and a wave of saintly might radiated from his body to neutralize the terrifying aura from the mysterious woman. However, what shocked him was that in terms of the confrontation of might, his might was fiercely suppressed as soon as it approached. Boom! In an instant, Yu Yujun's body also shook, as if he was suppressed by the wind, the sea, and the boundless sun. This kind of near-supreme power caused his expression to change again, and he finally realized how terrifying this mysterious woman was. As for the other important figures present, they were all suppressed to the ground at this moment. They were shocked and furious, and they looked extremely pathetic. No one dared to speak anymore. Such saintly might wasn't something they could withstand at all. At the same time, the mysterious woman retracted her might and said, "You're bullying the weak. Can't you see that?" Yu Yujun's expression immediately turned gloomy. This was not just bullying the weak, it was simply looking down on the spiritual treasure Holy Land. However, although he was furious, Yu Yujun finally held back when he saw the sheep prostrating beside the mysterious woman. Similar scenes happened at almost the same time in the Heavenly Sword sect, the Heavens Pivot Holy Land, the Vast Sea Taoist sect, and the Pure Land of Longevity. No matter how angry and aggrieved these orthodoxies were, they ultimately held back. The mysterious woman was only paying them a visit, and she didn't start a massacre. Moreover, she was holding the lives of the 5 sages who had turned into sheep in her hands, so these orthodoxies could only hold back. In the end, when the mysterious woman left, she obtained a sum of money from selling sheep that was enough to make these orthodoxies' hearts ache. For example, a bottle of gold wind dew from the spirit treasure sacred land. Even though it only contained 9 drops, the value of every single drop could be said to be immeasurable, and it wasn't inferior to the lightning origin spiritual liquid contained within a section of myriad tribulation lightning bamboo at all. Another example was a bottle of spirit condensation powder from the Heavenly Sword sect. It was also a top-notch treasure that could only be found by luck. In short, the mysterious woman's trip to herd sheep could be said to be full of rewards. And the terrifying power that she displayed also shocked and frightened these orthodoxies. No matter who it was, no matter how much they hated her, they could only hold it in. The only thing that made these orthodoxies feel at ease was that when she returned those captured sages, the mysterious woman returned the saint treasures of their respective orthodoxies. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the matter to end so smoothly. This was utterly impossible to conceal. Not long after the mysterious woman left the various orthodoxies, this news seemed as if it had grown wings and spread towards the different areas of the 4 worlds in the ancient desolation region. For a time, it caused an uproar and shock. On the other hand, the guess of the mysterious woman's identity became the topic that countless orthodoxies and cultivators paid the most attention to. Who is she? What relationship does she have with Devil Godlin? A mighty uproar arose in the entire world because of this. The undeniable fact was that the reputation of the Heavenly Sword sect and all the other ancient orthodoxies had suffered a huge blow after this incident, and they were covered in dirt and lost all face. From today onward, anyone who wanted to go against Devil Godlin was bound to have to consider the consequences. This uproar was extremely great, and it was even to the extent that some saints that lived in seclusion in the world were alarmed and started to pay attention to it. Violet Myrtle Mountain, the Yi clan. Yichun was drinking wine to his heart's content, and he seemed to be enjoying himself. From a moment he found out that Lin's son was fine, he started drinking. Up until now, there was a pile of empty wine jars on the ground. Young master, if you continue drinking, you'll really get drunk, a maid at the side reminded him in a clear voice. You don't understand. I'm practicing my alcohol tolerance. Yichun was drowsy from being drunk, and he spoke vaguely. Why are you practicing your alcohol tolerance? Of course, it's to completely knock that guy out. Could it be that guy's alcohol tolerance is greater than young master's? When she spoke up to this point, the maid instantly noticed that the young master was already drunk. He reclined on the soft chair with a drunken appearance, and he was still muttering, satisfying, really satisfying. Who's that guy? The maid had a puzzled expression. Little Tion, your friend is fine. Now you can rest assured, right? The old woman asked with a smile. Great-grandmother, I'll say it again. He's not my friend. Laughing at the heavens corrected her seriously. Laughing at the heavens corrected her seriously. Of course I can rest assured that he's alive, because I want to wash away the shame and save my face. So I have to defeat him. The old woman let out an oh sound and said, Then, do you think you can defeat him? Laughing at the heavens said without hesitation, Not now, but definitely in the future. Of course, before that, I'll first defeat that guy Yichun. This guy is too pretentious. I've never liked him since I was young. His words were impassioned, and he had a disdainful and arrogant attitude. You're ambitious. The old woman praised with a smile. Few people knew that the sword and saber duo of the Northern Dipper world had known each other since they were young, and until now, neither of them had been convinced by the other. Zhao Jingxian was sitting in front of a desk, writing a letter and humming a little tune. Her expression was relaxed and joyful. Her handwriting was different from that of ordinary women. It was strong and free, like a dragon or snake rising from the land, and it was powerful and natural. Junior sister Jingxian, what song are you humming? Yin Zhanqiu's voice sounded outside the room. This was the forbidden area of the back mountain. Although she was temporarily grounded here, it didn't mean that Zhao Jingxian couldn't hear the news of the outside world. If it were a few days ago, Zhao Jingxian wouldn't have bothered to respond to Yin Zhanqiu's voice. But now, she was in an exceptionally good mood, and she replied casually, Heavenly Sun Song. Very good. Yin Zhanqiu was startled, and he nodded. Of course it's very good. This song is related to Lin's son. As soon as Zhao Jingxian finished speaking, Yin Zhanxiu, who was standing outside the room, frowned and said, "Junior sister Jingxian, can you tell me how he obtained the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon?" The joy in Zhao Jingxuan's heart instantly disappeared, and she felt a little disappointed. She said coldly, "You're asking me, but how would I know?" Yin Zhanxiu sighed. "Forget it. I'll ask him personally when I have the chance in the future." "You still want to be his enemy?" Zhao Jingxuan's clear eyes turned cold. Yin Zhanxiu shrugged and said, "Everyone knows that as long as one doesn't bully the weak, anyone can spar with Lin Sun. My cultivation level is similar to his, so if there's a chance to spar, it won't be considered bullying." Zhao Jingxian fell silent for a moment, and she suddenly smiled. "Then I'll wish senior brother Yin good luck." "You?" Yin Zhanxiu couldn't help but ask. "Aren't you worried that I'll kill him?" "I'm not worried," Zhao Jingxian replied without hesitation. Yin Zhanxiu suddenly felt an indescribable anger in his heart. He took a deep breath, and without another word, he turned around and left. In the room, Zhao Jingxian kept the letter she had written and carefully sealed it. She planned to find a time to send it to the Empire. The letter recorded some information about Lin Sun, which she had carefully selected. At the same time, a mysterious woman stood in the void beside the Boundary River. Her figure was graceful, and her clothes fluttered in the wind, making her look like a goddess. She gazed into the depths of the Boundary River, and after a long time, she suddenly said, "This great era might come early. P.S. It's time to write a new plot. I'm stuck, but I'll try my best to settle today's outbreak." Chapter 11:17. This was an extremely chaotic Boundary River. Lin Sun had crossed the Boundary River from the Western Territory to the Dongxing Territory before, so he had seen the horror in the Boundary River. However, it was far from being comparable to the Boundary River in front of him. The water of this Boundary River was turbid and turbulent. Wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, terrible streamers, raging vortexes, and broken void cracks filled it. Indistinctly, there were even bursts of roars like gods and demons ringing in the depths of the Boundary River. Looking at it from a distance, Lin Sun felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. In ancient times, the Battle of Nirvana broke out here, and thousands of sages from all races died here. The mysterious woman looked a little absent-minded, and because of this battle, it became the source of the destruction of the ancient Desolation Realm. The Battle of Nirvana. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and asked, "Why did such a battle happen?" The mysterious woman said, "This is the battle of the 9 territories. No one can avoid it. Those opponents are all from other territories. If we don't fight back, the ancient Desolation Realm will be ruled by the orthodoxies of other territories." Lin Sun had heard some rumors about the 9 territories in the immortal Forbidden Land, but he didn't expect that the Battle of Nirvana in ancient times was related to the Battle of the 9 territories. At this time, Lin Sun was finally sure that there were other territories outside the ancient Desolation Realm. "Senior, can you tell me something about the other territories?" Lin Sun was really curious about where the other territories were and why he had never heard of them before. The other 8 territories are the same as the ancient Desolation Realm. They're all cultivation worlds. They are essentially the same. The mysterious woman said casually. However, the ancient Desolation Realm is the weakest one at the bottom of the 9 territories. Speaking of this, a cold smile appeared on her lips. "Do you know what the other 8 territories think of the ancient Desolation Realm?" Lin Sun shook his head. "The Wasteland." The mysterious woman spat out 2 words. "The Wasteland." Lin Sun was stunned. He was keenly aware that there was a sense of disdain in the way she addressed him. The mysterious woman explained, "In the eyes of the ancient Desolation Realm, the inferior world is a barren wasteland. In the eyes of the other 8 realms, the ancient Desolation Realm is almost the same as the inferior world. It is regarded as a wasteland, and the Great Way is wasted. It is like an uncivilized land." Lin Sun was sure that his feeling was not wrong. The word wasteland was indeed a derogatory and contemptuous title. In antiquity times, The ancient Desolation Realm was invaded by the other 8 realms more than once. Every time they invaded, the world was in chaos. People were killed and blood flowed like rivers. The mysterious woman said in a low voice. The most serious one was the Battle of Nirvana. The 8 regions joined hands and invaded the ancient Desolation region. It was like the end of the world. The entire ancient Desolation region was in chaos. Many sages were killed. In this battle, the ancient Desolation realm was broken into pieces and became the 4 great worlds. The number of creatures that died in this battle is uncountable. But I can tell you that if it were not for this battle of Nirvana, the ancient Desolation realm would not have been divided, and there would be more ancient orthodoxies in the world. Many ancient heritages were destroyed at that time. What a pity. The more she said, the lower her voice became, with a trace of sadness and disappointment. Lin Sun was quite disturbed. This was the first time he had heard of the battle between the 9 realms and the Battle of Nirvana. It was also the first time he clearly knew that the destruction of the ancient Desolation realm had something to do with the invasion of the other 8 realms. Why did the invasion happen? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. It is related to the struggle for the Great Way. Although the ancient Desolation realm is at the bottom of the 9 realms and is regarded as a wasteland by the other 8 realms, it used to be glorious and brilliant in the beginning. It once shocked all the realms and stood above the clouds. It was regarded as a sacred and immortal land. Speaking of this, the mysterious woman's temperament changed, with a trace of unparalleled pride and disdain. But soon, she sighed faintly. Let's not talk about it. These old things are in the past. The glory is gone, and the brilliance is gone. In the end, it will wither like a withered flower. Lin Sun was in a daze with mixed feelings. Everything he heard at this time involved the 9 realms and the past of the ancient Desolation realm. These were all things that he had never touched or understood before. Now, he was lucky enough to know it, but his heart was inexplicably heavy. These things have nothing to do with you for the time being, and you don't have to worry about them. What you need to do is to seize the opportunity of the coming great era and strive for the king realm. The mysterious woman said slowly and looked extremely serious. If you miss it, I'm afraid you won't have such a chance in the future. Lin Sun was awestruck and nodded seriously. Too many people are waiting for this great era. Not only the people in the world, but also some people who have been silent in the long river of time will wake up from silence and come out of hibernation. The mysterious woman said, So, you should be mentally prepared. Hearing this, Lin Sun once again thought of the little child who was dormant in the sacred island of 5 elements and Xiaohao, the young master of the Netherstar Imperial clan who was silent in the Star Egg. None of these guys belonged to the people in the world, but there was no doubt that when they came out, they were bound to stir up the world. Look, although the Boundary River is filled with danger and a catastrophe, there is an incomparably vast vitality being born behind the endless danger. You can see the whole picture by peeking at a corner. This is the case in the Border River, and the same is true in other places in the ancient Desolation realm. This is the sign of the coming great era. The mysterious woman looked at the Border River in the distance and pointed out to Lin Sun. As the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, they will go in the opposite direction. Since the Nirvana War, the ancient Desolation realm has been silent for too long. Its hidden strength is destined to burst out when the great era comes. Lin Sun looked carefully, but he could only see endless dangers and disasters. He couldn't see the so-called vitality at all. He also understood the reason. His realm was too low to see the general trend of the world. The mysterious woman said, According to my speculation, the great era is very likely to come in advance, and it should be no more than 3 months at most. Less than 3 months left? Lin Sun was really taken aback this time. He was caught off guard. The sign of the great era involves the changes of the whole world, which is intricate and complicated. Moreover, this great era is different from the previous ones. It is unprecedented, and it is destined that no one can see everything. The mysterious woman said, However, the more it is like this, the more opportunities there will be, and the greater the fortune we can get. Lin Sun's black eyes brightened, and he looked forward to it. Before long, the mysterious woman left with Lin Sun. On the way, she gave Lin Sun all the money she earned from selling sheep from the heaven-reaching sword sect and the other four orthodoxies. The golden wind dew of the holy land of spirit treasure, the spirit concentration powder of the heaven-reaching sword sect, the star acupoint recovery pill of the heavens pivot holy land, the fountain of youth from the pure land of longevity, and the colorful chalcedony of the Sea Taoism sect, together with the thunder yuan spiritual liquid from the Black Sea Dog tribe. There were 6 kinds of divine treasures in total, and each of them was a rare cultivation treasure. It was so valuable that it was sufficient to make the eyes of any cultivator go red with envy. The mysterious woman said casually, "These should be enough for you to become a king. Before that, I suggest you comprehend and master the profound meaning of the immortal way. Even if you encounter a life-threatening situation, with the power of the immortal way, it will not be easy for you to die." Lin Sun broke out in a cold sweat. She did not encourage him, but first considered death. Her concern was really different. In the end, the mysterious woman and Lin Sun returned to the Star Chest Sea again. There was no one here, but the traces of the battle were still there. The mountains and rivers that had collapsed into ruins were silently telling how terrifying the battle of the divine path a few days ago was. Before and after the great era arrives, at least no ancient orthodoxy will dare to target you. However, it is hard to guarantee that some desperados will jump out. You have to be careful. I can stand up for you for a while, but I can't help you forever. In the end, you still have to rely on yourself to seek the immortal way. After that, the mysterious woman's figure disappeared into thin air, and she returned to the heaven-accessing place. Lin Sun felt lost. He recalled everything that had happened, from being besieged by the sages to the mysterious woman's appearance, suppressing everyone on her own. From Saint Mu acting like an animal, to ascending the Black Nightmare Mountain as if he had entered an uninhabited land, to the conversation by the border river. All of this was like experiencing a bizarre and dazzling dream, yet it was clearly branded in his mind and appeared vividly before his eyes. Lin Sun stood on the lone island in the depths of the Star Chest Sea, lost in thought for a long time. In the end, he took a deep breath, and his black eyes became determined again. This experience had shown him what it meant to have extraordinary means, to look down on the world, and to be unparalleled in the world. He also finally understood that when he possessed absolute power, he could fear no orthodoxy in the world, even if he was alone. At this moment, Lin Sun suddenly had a strong desire for the great era to arrive. He wanted to compete for the immortal way with the other geniuses and obtain the great opportunity to become a supreme king. From this day onwards, Lin Sun began to cultivate in seclusion in the depths of the Star Chest Sea. In the outside world, a storm was still brewing. The story of the mysterious woman suppressing the 6 sages and visiting the 6 orthodoxies was still fermenting and spreading. The 6 orthodoxies could be said to have lost all face this time. The other orthodoxies were shocked by this as well, and all of them were surprised. They'd never imagined that a young man who was looked down upon by any of the ancient orthodoxies would actually have such a peerless existence standing behind him. The cultivators of the world were similarly discussing this matter, and they were seething with excitement. It's that Lin Sun again. In the forbidden area at the back of the mountain of the Heavenly Sword sect, a young man sat cross-legged under an extremely ancient divine tree. His eyes suddenly opened, and 2 bolts of cold lightning shot out. At this moment, the boy who came to report the news was covered in cold sweat, and he felt as if he was in an icy pit. The reason was that the aura emitted by the young man was too terrifying. As his eyes opened and closed, they were like a pair of unfathomable vortexes, and they flowed with strands of electric arcs that were like swords. They seemed to be able to see through everything and cut and devour one's soul.